Hey everyone, we're just gonna wait a little bit for some more people to kind of get into the chat. Probably give it a couple minutes. So just is the quality of this really bad? Kind of looks like it's not good. All right, guys, if you guys are watching, just let me know in the chat. If is Let me know if the quality is really bad because it kind of looks like it on my end, but I can't really tell. All right, guys, if you guys are watching, so just let me know in the chat. I mean, maybe it's not. If maybe it's just on my side.
Let me
It
know if
looks
the
not
quality
great,
is
but
really bad.
it's okay.
Because
Welcome to the stream.
kind of looks
Yeah,
like it on
we're
my
gonna
end,
be
but I
talking Red
can't
Sox.
really tell.
I've been wanting to do a live stream for
all right, guys, if you
a
guys are
good hot
watching
minute here.
so
Just let me know in the chat.
I
But
mean,
just
maybe
haven't
it's
really
not.
had the
If it's just
opportunity
on
to
my
do a lot
side,
of
let me know if the quality
things
is
that are
really
going
bad.
on. It's okay in
Because
life in general. I think we all kind of relate
welcome
to
to
that.
stream.
Kind of looks like it on
we're
my
gonna
end.
be
We're
talking
gonna be
a
Red
lot of
Sox content to you guys.
I've
Though,
been
I feel
wanting
like
to do a live stream.
appreciate you guys
All
for
right,
watching.
guys, if you
It's been
guys
a
are
pretty
watching,
great month just overall.
just let me know in the chat.
I mean,
But
maybe it's
haven't really
not.
had the
If it's
opportunity
just
to
on
do
my
a lot
side,
Let me know if the
it's not
quality
great. To kind of watch that develop and watch the community grow a little bit more. So, um, all of your guys' likes, watches, comments, it's very appreciated and helps me out a lot. So, yeah, in this video, I'm going to be talking about Red Sox prospects to start off, and then we're getting some echo. Okay. On now? Good to go? Okay. Might have been just my phone was too close, possibly. Not sure. But, yeah, Red Sox prospects. We're gonna be talking about that a lot to kind of start off. I want to talk about the MLB draft, and then we're going to talk about just the Red Sox as a whole and what I think that they should be doing for like the trade deadline. All this is gonna be kind of mixed together. There's not like a specific format that I have kind of set up, but I feel most comfortable just kind of jumping in and talking about Red Sox prospects because I think I'm pretty familiar with the Red Sox system overall, and I think a lot of you guys want to hear about what's going on in the Red Sox system because it's not exactly something that if you're watching it day to day to day, you might not 100% be aware of like everything that's happening with the Red Sox. And the Red Sox system has been doing awesome. They're like overall, top to bottom, they've been doing very, very well. So I think that there's a lot to talk about, and it's a very interesting year for Red Sox prospects because in previous years, we had that high end talent like the Myers, Roman Anthony's, Christian Campbell's of the world, and this year we don't have as much of that high end talent. We've got Arias and Einson, and then we've got a bunch of other like really interesting guys that are like in the middle that I think can take that leap into being potentially a top 100 prospect or a valuable organizational piece in the long term. And in the near future for the team. So let's transition over. We'll jump into that. So we're gonna go to the Sox prospects site, and I'm just gonna run down through what the Red Sox prospects are kind of doing, top to bottom. Some of the more well-known guys, Franklin Arias. I think we all kind of know what he's doing, but we'll talk about him a little bit. But I think that there are some more interesting guys like here in the middle that you might not know about at all, and so that's the type of stuff that I really want to kind of try to jump into. I think that um, people don't get to hear about as often because you might even the like fans that are into the Red Sox, you'll hear about these top guys, but you're not going to maybe hear about those Andy Azakars or those Justin Gonzalez's or Franklin Primeras like that. So um, and yeah, I'll keep an eye out in the chat to let me know um how the if you guys have any questions or anything. But in the meantime, just buckle up and we'll kind of just run through it. So um Franklin Arias, number one in the system. I want to say he's like number 6 on MLB.com. His season for the Red Sox this year, obviously it's just been ludicrous. He hit his 18th home run like last week, 2 days before I think the All-Star break. Uh, Prior to this year, he had 18 home runs in his like entire career combined. And so I think it was like 950 plate appearances. He had 18 home runs. And then obviously he's got, 265 at bats now and he has 18 home runs. This power is just like not something that I was expecting. Nobody was expecting. And that's kind of propelled him to being this top 10 prospect. Really encouraging signs that I look towards outside of the power and the elevation is just at these baseline stats that you can kind of see here, is the walks and the Ks. Because if you kind of look out throughout his entire career, he's been very consistent at being able to maintain like a good walk to strikeout rate. And he hasn't really struck out at a very high clip, and he walks at a decent clip as well. So it's been very even throughout his career 32, 35, 34, 36. And this year is exactly the same. And so while he's been able to like elevate his power to just totally different level than we've ever seen before, he's maintaining those positive attributes he's had in the past too, which is why he's such an exciting prospect right now for the team. And I'll be the first to admit, I thought we should have traded him like last year. I mean, Heath Law made him like the number 10 overall prospect on his list about this time last year. And I was like, that is bananas to me. Like, I don't know how you can justify putting him there when he was at that level. Like he was making tons of contact, right? But he wasn't at the same level that he is right now. And so for that change to kind of take place, like it's really impressive. One site I'm going to be referencing this a lot as we go through this stream because I think that this is a really interesting um, site that you guys may or may not have been a part of before, but it is Prospect Savant site. So if you guys haven't heard of this, this is essentially Baseball Savant for prospects. You know, that kind of makes the most sense. TJ Stats on Twitter has put this together. He is like a really cool guy. You can give him a follow. He knows a ton about this type of stuff, but essentially, like he has all of like the notable data is in here for all these players, and so like when you click onto Franklin Iris's page, it looks really similar to how like a normal baseball savant page would look, right? And I think that when you look at his stats overall, like one of the things here, and I'll explain this briefly, I might mention this again as, but um, is this PS score. And so this is the Prospect Savant score. And so for those of you guys that are unfamiliar with this site, basically what that means is the score is composite percentile that evaluates prospect value, combines production, batted ball quality, batted plate discipline, and then multiplies by age percentile. Younger prospects score higher. So 70 means the player ranks 70th in the percentile among qualified prospects. So essentially what this does is it takes all of this batted ball data and then it looks at the age of the player for the level that they're at, and it gives it a score to be like how advanced this prospect is. And so when you're looking at Franklin Arias, he has a 98.9 percentile. So basically he's like in the top 2 percentile of all players in double A for what he's been doing based on his stats and his performance overall. These are more specifically based on metrics as opposed to the actual results. But like even the metrics alone are just insane. And this starts at like pitch qualifier of 1, but if you like can change this, like we'll go to pitch qualifier of 400, and because it kind of weeds out the players that are for just a start or not, and like it it's really impressive really fast. Like weighted on base percentage, weighted on base average 428, uh, weighted runs created plus 156. Like this is like means he's 56 percentile better than the average hitter at that level while being 20 years old. And like the average player in double A is like 24. And so he's one of the best players in all of double A right now at 20 years. Just why he's ranked so highly as a prospect. Some of the things that are super encouraging here is like the isolated power, of course, is like this is top tier power levels. And this is something that's not going to translate Major League Baseball. Like I want to be clear about that. Like he's not going to be hitting 25, 30 home runs to the big leagues, most likely. Like, I could be wrong. I mean, you've seen players that kind of develop into this, and I think the most comparable one that people like to talk about sometimes is Mookie Betts type guy. But Mookie's even shorter, but he's kind of like a unicorn when it comes to players. Like you can't just be like, oh, he's got like stroke like Mookie Betts. He's going to become Mookie Betts. No, I can't assume that. But he's on like the same type of path that Mookie could be. And I think that like when you're talking about bets, and I think that this is a reasonably fair comparison at this point. Let's look at bets like his first season or two. And this could be something that he could develop into like at a peak potential. And so we'll talk about like Betts' second or his essentially first full season, first 2 seasons. And Betts put up 18 home runs, 77 RBI, 291 batting average, 117 OPS plus. And when I think of like what he could do offensively as like a peak potential, this feels relatively close because he's not going to strike out a whole lot. 82 strikeouts over a full season, pretty good. Um, he's going to have a high batting average most likely. So like when we're looking at him at 291, like that's a very reasonable to think he could be batting around 290. The power, 18 home runs, that still feels like very high end. Like again, there's still the worlds where he could develop into this 25, 30 home run hitter potentially. Um, but realistically speaking, if we're talking like 80th, 90th percentile outcome, he's still probably going to be like an 18 to 20 home run hitter. More likely going to be in that 15ish, the teens type range as a power hitter. But the thing is, he's going to get full season at bats because his defense is so good. And I think that's the next part that makes him so interesting is like you look at all this batted ball data, and they put some tidbits in here, which is another thing that I really like about this site. But young for level output above coherent, multiple categories clear the basis. Profile is above average on more than one front. High signal divergence. The categories are spread widely. The profile is uneven rather than uniform across the skill. So basically, they're saying that these categories here, the walk percentage, base percentage, zone, swing percentage, like these are a little bit lower than you'd like it. But realistically speaking, all the super important ones are checked off. Um, Thanks, Anthony. I appreciate you being here at 2 a.m. That's That's pretty crazy. So, I thought Seti was gonna be baby Mookie. Yeah, I mean, Seti's developed a lot this year, and he's kind of turning into this type of player. Like Sadon Rafaela is turning into maybe some guy that can do this type of thing too. And if even if I mean that's even another. I really appreciate like that comparison with Sadon Rafaela because we can even look at Sadon's profile here too. And I think that Sadon, like you look at what he's done here with his power output. And the only thing that you would change here potentially, I mean, you're going to cut down on the strikeouts a lot, but the batting average is going to go up a lot. Actually, this is not a great comparison. I'm going to kind of scrap this, um, but this is the power range that Franklin Arias potentially could be in, and then the stolen bases. He's not very fast, which I think is really interesting when you look at a guy that's so advanced when it comes to his batting profile and his defense because he's like a high contact guy that's developing power. He's a high defense oriented player. So usually those guys are at least average speed, right? And like he's obviously very clearly kind of a below average runner. 21st percentile speed. I mean, you're there's some first baseman catchers out there that are going to be faster than him, which is really surprising. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if you watch him make contact, he can just kind of hit anything. And his zone contact percentage is 93 percentile. So while he's not swinging a lot, and that's one of the things that I mentioned up here um is like all over the place on some of his percentiles. He's not swinging at everything, but when he does swing, he makes contact with it. And so his when he does start swinging more, which I expect this to probably go up over time, you're going to see this contact percentage probably still stay relatively similar, and the zone contact percentage stay up. Like it's not like he doesn't automatically become a bad contact hitter. Um, just because he's swinging more, like he's still going to make really good contact. And the strikeout percentage, obviously, the whiff percentage is really low, and the strikeout percentage has always been really low. And so those are things that you look at that are really encouraging with Franklin Arias. And so I have gone from some guy that wanted to trade Franklin Arias to now I think that he is going to be a valuable piece within the organization. If he can turn into, you know, Cedon Rafaela potentially defensively, which that's very doable, and then he can turn into 15 home run hitter that can bat you 270 to 300. Like he's a potential perennial all-star candidate. Like we're talking like what Sadon was able to do this season going into the all-star game, like that's what he's going to be doing every single year. And in the infield, it can be a little bit more challenging to make the all-star game kind of like that if you're playing top. I think he's going to be. But, at second base, if he's doing that type of thing and being best defender in the league, I think that we're going to be really excited to see what we get out of this guy. Um, how has Sadon figured it out as a young guy, yet Roman and Marcelo and Campbell can't? So I think this is the biggest thing with Sadon. Like you're looking at Sadon and he's figuring it out now in his third full season. Like that's really what it is. I mean, he's had before this year, he had like 330, 340 games already under his belt. So it takes time to develop, and you're seeing these wins above replacements. Like Tatum's probably going to blow past this. He's going to be like a 6, 7 win player this year, as long as he can maintain anything offensively the rest of the year. But um, it's not like he was performing super well his first couple years. Like last year, we saw a nice step in the right direction. We got above that 700 OPS mark, which I think that was really like 700 OPS is kind of the baseline for what you want from a starter. 664 is not what you're looking for, and strikeout rates, walk rates were horrendous. But we took a step in the right direction last year, and we're taking another step in the right direction this year. And I think that, like, we'll go to Sadon really quick, and we'll look at his Savant page because I think it'll provide a little bit more clarity to this. Um, but it's just time in the league, right? I mean, it's not. I don't think he's even like if you look at his percentiles year over year, it's not even like things have changed too much. Like his spot percentage is at 58th percentile in 2024, and it's at 74th percentile this year. So I mean, he's hitting it on the sweet spot a little bit more, but it's not like other metrics are really that changed. I think it's just part of it's a little bit luck, um, but the other parts of it are just going to be he spent enough time in the big leagues understand, think how to hit the ball the way that he needs to be able to hit the ball. Even as a rookie, Sadon was better than those three. I will push back on that for sure because, like, you look at what Roman Anthony did as a rookie, and like this is not Roman's rookie year. Like last year was his rookie year. I mean, this is 142 OPS plus, 8 home runs, 32 RBIs, 292 batting average. Like third in rookie of the year voting. Only played half a season. Like if he played a full year, he was a 6-win player. Um, was Roman Anthony last year, and he started off the season poorly. But I just want you to put this in context. Um, Roman Anthony started off the season bad, right? Like we can all kind of attest to that. He was still worth almost a full win in 30 games. Now you times that by 5, we're looking at like a 4-win player who's batting 229 and with a 675 OPS, and he still put up 4 wins. Like if he did this all year and he hit 5 home runs, which he wasn't going to do. If he was healthy right now at this point, I would assume he'd probably be somewhere in the range of like 8 to 10 home runs at this point. Um, but he's just been gone for months, and so you look at what Roman's done, and his baseball savant page too. Even this year, like, look at how red this is. Like, he was getting so unlucky. 229 batting average, he was expected to be 262. Slugging percentage, 321. He was expected to be 410. Average exit velocity, like, these are very similar numbers to what he put up the year prior. He obviously did a little bit better last year, but like his expected batting average was 258 last year. And this year it's better. So it's not like he was performing that dissimilar. He was just getting very unlucky. And so if Roman Anthony went on the injured list and he was batting 262 with a 410 OPS or 410 slugging percentage, that means he probably has close to an 800 OPS. If he had, like, say, a 780 OPS when he went on the injured list, would we be talking about right now that Roman Anthony wasn't performing? No. That's probably what his expected numbers would be, like, if you drew that out over a full season. And so I think that there's a like the people that are dogging on Anthony right now, it's I do understand a little bit. There's this little sensitivity to like the toughness that's coming out of Anthony, but at the same time, he's never really had injuries before. Like if you go through his entire career in the minor leagues, pretty much played all the time, and so he didn't really miss time. You like the criticism can be there a little bit more with Air, but in 2025, uh, I've between Boston and the major leagues, I mean, he played 120 games, and then 2024 he played 120 games, and then the year prior 106 games. Um, so I that was a small sample size for Rafaela. I mean, not really. Like we'll go back to Rafaela. So 71 games, like 142 OPS. This is not a small sample size. It's half a season. That's a good enough sample size. Rafaela, I'm like we'll talk his first full season here, like 85 OPS plus. 85 OPS plus 664 OPS. And that's still worse than what Roman Anthony was doing this year when he went on the injured list. So, I mean, if we're trying to compare Roman Anthony and Cedon Rafaela in their first seasons, like obviously Anthony's first half season was great, but even this year when he was doing horrible, we were all saying he was horrible. Um, Still doing better than Cedon. So like, um, I have a better chance of climbing the Eiffel Tower than Roman does of hitting 10 home runs. That's that's wild. They need Roman back to go plays in October. No way they turn it around. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that needing Roman. They do okay. Yes, I think they do need Roman to make waves in October. Like that, they're not going to be able to pick up enough offense to be able to take that step forward without Roman Anthony. Like I think that if they go into the deadline and we are in a position that's close to the playoffs or in the playoffs, they're probably going to pick up a bat. Um, but I don't think they can pick up two. And realistically speaking, we only have one legitimate bat on this roster, right? We've got Wilson Contreras. And so when he, hurt his foot the other day last week, my first reaction to this is if he broke his foot, the season is over. And then they won 4 more games without him in a row, which can happen when you have the pitching as good as the Red Sox do, but they need a bat or two. And if Roman can be one of those bats and he can come back and do anything close to what he did last year. That means that Roman's batting in the 1 or 2 spot in your lineup most likely, and then you've got Wilson Contreras batting in the 3, 4 hole, and then if they pick up another bat that can bat in the top 5 in the lineup, I mean, you've got 3 or 4 bats then, because there's inevitably gonna be somebody else that's hitting well enough, like Willier can go on streaks. Cedon's even done really well for, like, half a season, we've talked about that, but the offense, I think, can rebound quicker than people think, like, if we can get some of these guys back, but it's an if. I mean, we don't know what's happening with Roman. Roman's supposed to be back by now, right? Roman's been dead for most of the season. We have no idea what's happening with this guy. He's in Fort Myers and nothing's happening. Cedon, same thing goes for Garrett Crochet though. So like this is not just a purely Roman Anthony issue. There's been some weird extended injuries, very important players on this team. So um, a better chance of need Roman back to go. And we're paying $200 million. No, talking about Raphael. That's yes. My name is Raphael. What am I doing here? Uh, yeah, I don't know what I'm missing there. But when it comes to the other guys, so I think with Marcelo Mayer, there's a higher expectation because people were kind of throwing out Corey Seager as a comp early on. And I mean, I kind of did too, but like every time I talked about the Corey Seager comp, people talked about this, when Marcelo was drafted, it was 2021, right? I'm pretty sure it was 2021. So 5 years ago. So the Corey Seager that people were talking about, this is the Corey Seager people were talking about. Like the Seager that was batting, 15 to 25 home runs and batting close to 100. Like, yeah, this is still obviously incredible offensive performance. But like when you think of Corey Seager today, everybody's like, "Oh, Corey Seager comps," and they're like, "Yeah, it's the guy who hit 30 home runs 3 years in a row." Like that was never supposed to be what Marcelo Mayer could be. Like it was always this guy that was going to have an 800, 850 OPS and hit 20ish home runs. And has he underperformed? Obviously. But I think that he was also put in a position that he shouldn't have been. Like he shouldn't have been called up at all last year, and like this year he's just kind of doing worse. And I don't really know. I think the best thing for him right now because he's on the injured list would be you see what Anthony Siegler is doing right now for the Red Sox, and I if he can maintain it for a little while, I would rather Marcelo come up and then they just option him for the next couple of months at least, maybe even the rest of the season, and just kind of let him start hitting well again at AAA. Because you look at what he did in the minor leagues before he was getting called up, and he was performing well. I mean, he does this every time Marcelo's ever been promoted. It's the same trend with him. He gets promoted, and when he gets promoted up to that next level, he does not perform very well. And then he like gets settled, and then he gets promoted and he doesn't perform, and then he gets settled. And it's just kind of like this up and down thing with him. Like his first taste at double A, I mean, he batted 609 in 43 games. And then the next year at double A, he was batting 307. And so it's like, okay, this is a huge jump just year over year with him. And even when you're looking at in his stats for Worcester, or I'm gonna get killed for pronouncing it like that, but I can't pronounce it very well. Um, like in his first half, he was batting like 200 in his first 20 games. Then he batted like 315, like the end of it. When is Marcelo never on the injured list? That is a fair criticism of him at this point. Like, I mean, he is an injury prone guy, and I think that in hindsight, they probably should have traded him. Um, Instead of trading Kyle Teal, like, or Christian Campbell. They obviously weren't gonna trade him at the time, but if you have Teal right now instead of, Mayer, Kyle Teal, just for context, is not having a very good year. Um, like, he's poorly also, but he did have a nice season the year prior. Um but it would just help balance out this roster a little bit easier having another like reliable catcher. And our catching tandem's been really solid between Narvaez and Connor Wong this year. Like Narvaez obviously isn't hitting very well, but his defense is still very good. And Connor Wong has done something that I was just never expecting, and that is be an actual decent player. Um, so that's great. Uh, but um, yeah, I mean, I guess we'll just kind of have to see what ends up happening with some of these guys. Is anybody in the chat right now? Is anybody actually? Looks like there's 0 people watching. That's pretty unfortunate if that's the case. So, but let's jump back over and we'll talk about more prospects about that. So we'll go into Anthony Ianson real quick. So Anthony Ianson, let's go to his stats over at high A. We're going back over to Prospect Savant here, and they do pitchers as well. So Anthony Ianson, when he was at high A at the beginning of the season, um, he was 100 percentile on Prospect Savant, basically saying that he was the best pitcher in high A when he was at high A. Juan Valera, who is on the injured list, just to throw out there, was third. So like this is also really unfortunate that Juan Valera is on the injured list and had to have surgery because he's out for the rest of the season and maybe part of next season. Like this is what he was doing, which is incredible. So it's a real bummer we didn't get to see more out of him. It was just a 9 inning sample size, but obviously a terrific start to him. And then Anthony Ianson, like what he was doing was just very impressive at high A, like insanely impressive and across the board, just literally everything. I mean, there's nothing but red here. And so we're looking at like his pitch qualifier, even if you move that up a little bit, like we start to get in the 100th percentile here. And so his K percentage of 49 or 47.9%, like this is just these are outrageous numbers. So of course they promote him. This is the part where I start to get mildly concerned about Anthony Ianson. And he's a top 100 prospect. Um, but I almost look at this and I think that his value is extremely high right now. And that is a great thing. He's currently ranked the number 28 prospect in all of baseball. And like it's because he has a 129 ERA this year. And he has a 0.862 whip. And he's striking at 11.5 per nine. His walks are really good. But when you look at what he's done at double A, it is just not nearly as impressive. And part of this has me mildly concerned because his walk rate is starting to creep up, like 4.3 walks per nine. That's a little bit high. And his strikeout rate has dipped a little bit, which that's fine. 9.4 is not that big of a deal, but his ERA is not reflected it yet. And so when you're looking at his FIP, so what he's expected to be at, he should have around like a 4 ERA right now, and he doesn't. He has less than half of that, 1.79. So hear me out, because last year I was talking about Franklin Arias and how I felt like that the Red Sox should consider trading him. Um, I think if you are trying to make a splash and you want to get a big bat, I think Anthony Ianson really should be on the table because the Red Sox have already won with Anthony Ianson. They drafted him in what the third round, 87th overall. And he is now the number 28 prospect in all of baseball. Some would argue he should be higher. And so if you have teams out there valuing him and they look at Anthony Ianson and they see like, hey, this guy could be a number 1 or number 2 starter for us. I'm not sure that that's what Anthony Ianson is. I look at him more as somebody that might be like a number 3 starter or number 4 starter, even maybe something like on the back end of a rotation. And while he did amazing at high A, start off, like it would be perfect timing to capitalize on what Anthony Ianson has done thus far in his career because he is greatly overperforming his stats at double A. And if you trade him at this trade deadline and get like a legitimate bat for Ianson, and say he goes on and becomes like a solid pitcher in Major League Baseball, like okay, it is what it is. And if he becomes a good pitcher, that's fine. I mean, you traded him with the potential for him being a good pitcher, but I think that the regression is already starting to show itself, and he just has gotten lucky. And so I would be more interested in keeping. Yes, exactly. Yes, we definitely need to deal some pitching prospects to have much pitching right now. I like Kyson more long term. I agree, and let me like we'll go to Kyson Witherspoon right now. So, um, but I think that like you look at the talent levels between what Kyson and Ianson are, and I don't think it's too dissimilar. But I think that at the end of the day, they're going to be very similar pitchers. And Kyson Witherspoon started off so bad. He had like a 7 ERA to start this year, and he's just slowly crept it down, and he's got like a 5 ERA now. But like if you were looking at these numbers earlier in the year, like these were very bad numbers. And like we were talking like 10th percentile on some of these. And so you have Kyson Witherspoon, who's on the upswing right now, right? And he's not ranked in top 100 prospects, even though he was like, I think 67th overall is where he had peaked at. But he wasn't ranked on the latest update, but he's been getting better. And Ianson potentially could be coming down, which I don't think that that's even up for a debate. Like, regardless of what happens with Kyson, Ians like Ianson is not going to be holding a 1.78 ERA the rest of this year. Like he's going to regress like to some of these stats. And so I think that the Red Sox should be capitalizing on this type of performance that they had in high A and be able to realize the asset they have now and how the market is viewing him and how casual fans will look at this. And if an organization was to trade one of their high-end players and they get Anthony Ianson back and their fans look at it and they're like, this guy's got a 1.5 ERA and look at what he's done this year. I mean, 1.29 ERA and he's got this, like there's 71 strikeouts and 55 innings. Wow, we got a great pitcher. And I mean, they might have, but it just I think he's the guy that we should be dealing. I really do think you need to look at the possibility of trading him while his value is at his as peak. Because like I was saying earlier, you've already won with Ianson. Already won. You drafted a third round pick and you turn him into a top 25 prospect in all of baseball in a year. Like that is amazing asset management. Like Kyson Witherspoon was drafted in the first round, and like I was saying before, he was like the 67th ranked prospect. So essentially, people are valuing Ianson right now like he was a top 5, top 6 pick this year's draft. Like that's where those picks are going to drop in, is like in the 20s and 30s. And like that's what people think of Ianson right now. So that's the asset you have now. I don't see it getting better. And I think that they should be open. I really do. And I think that Red Sox fans are not going to view it in this way and it might get some blowback. But I mean, if you get a legitimate bat, I think that it should be explored, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later into the bats that I think that they should be targeting. But um, we jumped into Kyson Witherspoon. We can talk about him briefly too. Um, I like I was saying before, I we'll go through his game logs. I think that's actually going to be more relevant. Um, so Kyson started off the year bad. Like some of these outings were just ridiculous. I mean, 3 innings pitched, 4 runs, 2.2 innings pitched, 4 runs, like 4.2 innings pitched, 4 runs. Like he was just giving up a lot of contact, not striking out enough batters, and it was just not going well. As it's gone over time, though, like you can see a point. Like these first group of starts compared to these back ones, they start to get a little bit better. And one of the things that I want you guys to look at here too, because we see earned runs and there are some games in here where it's a little bit higher. Look at these inning pitch totals, like 3.1, 3.1, 2.2. Like we're going into 5, 5.1, 5, 5, 6. Like he is going longer in outings. And yeah, he's might be giving up similar amounts of runs, but he's performing at a higher level now than he was in the first half. And this is just improvement that you want to see. So it might be taking a little bit longer for him to develop, but I look at Kyson is somebody where, he's probably going to spend the remainder of the year at high A. I would likely do that, but he's going to start next year at double A. And if performs well throughout the rest of this year into next year, like it's not too hard for a guy like that might be more indicative of how good the tourists are than anything. Um, but I just look at him and I think that there's still plenty of room for growth when it comes to with it. Obviously, Jake Bennett's been incredible. Like, we're not going to talk about him too much right this second, just because I think we've all seen like what he's done in the major league. His baseball savant page is pretty crazy. Honestly, for somebody like this is for a fastball velocity that's low. Like his control, like this is what we were seeing with Connolly early last year, with Jake Bennett this year. And I don't know how long he can keep this up, but he's getting a ton of whiffs, and that is the thing that is holding him together right now because his fastball velo is just not that great. And typically speaking, this isn't going to get you results, but like he is getting people to just change his junk or chase his junk out of the zone and get weak contact and then just roll over on it. And he doesn't walk anybody. And so, like, this is just a good recipe for a successful pitcher. Now, it's a lot harder to do this consistently over time. And so, is Jake Bennett going to be able to maintain his mechanics for long enough to be able to continue to do this over like a career or a season? I don't know. It's harder to do this. It's much harder to be a finesse pitcher than it is to just throw strikes and like throw 98 miles an hour and get blow by people. Because I mean, if you can throw fast, like it doesn't matter if your control's off a little bit, like you're gonna get away with it a lot more. But with Jake Bennett, like, if you're throwing 93 and you mislocate it, it's going out the building. Something that does help him too, which is just a calling card of Craig Breslow, is the extension is really high. So even though his fastball velocity sits at like 93, it feels like it's a little bit faster. It probably feels like it's more like mid 90s just because it's so much closer to the plate than a lot of other pitchers. But no, Bennett's great. I don't know. He's like early. I just don't know where he's going to be long. Because you see the regression from Connolly early already a little bit this year, and he's still outperformed his metrics. Like last year, like this is kind of similar, right, to what we were just looking at with Jake Bennett. Like fastball velo is kind of lower, and then everything else is red. So that's why I'm saying that I think I could see the regression from Jake Bennett is just hard to maintain this for a lower velocity guy. But again, Connolly early is a big extension guy. So I guess we'll see. Um, let's go down to some of the other prospects here. Um, Justin Gonzalez. So this is the first one that I think is very interesting. And so if you guys don't know much about Justin Gonzalez, let me enlighten you on him. Um, he is one of the youngest prospects at his level. Justin. And he is a pretty impressive guy overall. Um, he hits the ball very hard when he makes contact. Like they don't have those numbers here, which is pretty unfortunate. I think if they had like exit velocity numbers, you would look at this and it would be totally different. But when he hits the ball, I mean, they do have exit velocity numbers for certain hits. I know for a fact that he has hit a home run this year at like 116 miles an hour, which is one of the hardest in all of minor league baseball. Um, these numbers overall are good. They're not great numbers, but they're good numbers. His K percentage, I think that this is something that's most exciting for me. Is this is a big time power guy that does not strike out a lot, and he's already done that at the current level that he's at. And his stats, while being good, um, they're not great. I mean, they look good, and I think that this is kind of going to make people maybe undervalue him a little bit because you look at what he did last year at Salem, and it's very similar to kind of what he did this year, but he has tapped into that power a little bit more. But what he really needs to do is just be able to lift the ball. And if he can continue to lift the ball at a higher and higher rate, he's going to improve. Because, like, here we go. Pull air percentage, 38%. He was a pull air percentage of like 80%. This guy would have 20 home runs right now, at least, maybe 25. Like, it's just very, very impressive what he's able to do. actually lifts the ball, and it's just like a missile off the bat. And so it would not shock me at all if Justin Gonzalez, if he goes to double A or like next year, if it just like he works on some things in the offseason, and then you look at him and it's like Justin Gonzalez is a top 20 prospect in all of baseball. Like, he has that type of power. Like he has Aaron Judge type power at this age. And uh, the comp to Aaron Judge is ridiculous. Like, obviously, see, but he's a big 6'5" guy. He's 210 pounds. He's like 260 pounds. But um, for being such a big guy too, like he's faster than Franklin Arias. Like his defense is okay. It's not like amazing or anything, but Justin Gonzalez is one of the few guys that we have in the organization right now that you can legitimately look at and like this guy is going to be a middle of the order bat if he makes the big league successfully. And if he is doing this type of stuff, I mean, at 19, which I mean, he's at high A at 19. Like he's going to be most likely at double A by the end of the season. I would think they'll probably do it where it's like 3 weeks in the double A by the end of the year. Like that makes sense to me. They do that with a lot of prospects where it's like they give for 3 weeks right at the end of the season and they leave them at double A and then they kind of do it again. But um, if he's touching triple A by the end of next year, I mean, we could be talking like a 21-year-old player potentially making the Red Sox. And he's playing first base and the outfield right now. They have him listed as a center fielder, which I've watched him play in center, and I'm surprised that he's not as bad as I would expect him to be for being such a big guy. But realistically speaking, he's going to be in right fielder base, like more than like their left field. I wonder if they'll transition to left field. Because we have Willier. But that's a year and a half away. We might not even have Willier on the roster. We could end up dealing Willier. Like that's a very real possibility. Well, um, but like I think that you're going to see him in a few years, and he's going to be hitting 30 home runs in the majors. And that's great because we need that type of bat in the organization. Um, so yeah, we'll see what ends up happening with him. These numbers, though, like if we had those exit velocity numbers, you'd be looking at this guy like, wow. Am I the only one who still thinks we should have kept Cora? I don't care if we got a 9 game. I still miss Cora. Yeah, I can touch on that really quick. So I was really shocked when they fired Cora. I thought it was a cover kind of for Breslow. Like one of the things that I was thinking of is, and this was mentioned, I want to say by like Ian Brown, is before Heim Bloom got removed from his position years ago, Alex Cora was started criticizing the front office and was basically like, "This team is not good enough," and like, "It's not my fault we're not winning," like type of thing. It's like I can only do stuff with what I've been given. Like I can only do so much, and Cora was starting to kind of do that this year again, being like, the roster is what it is, type of a thing. Like it's stuff. If you start reading between the lines, it's putting a wedge between Cora and Breslow. And so I thought that Breslow was kind of getting out in front of it and being like, you know what, the team is doing very poorly this year, and he's trying to put blame on somebody besides himself. Um, and so it's a hard position to be in. I can understand somewhat why Breslow would want to do this because it's like a job preservation. Um, But at the same time, it's Breslow's fault. Like we were doing so bad. Like it's great that Caleb Durbin's turned it around, and honestly, like all of the acquisitions he's made legitimately have been very good. Um, Wilson Contreras, Sonny Gray, Ranger Suarez, like all of those guys have performed. Guys that are in house right now that are not performing, and I think that that's like those are good. But you also need to look at this and be like, we still didn't address the things that he said he was going to and that we knew we needed to, right? And so, while we got all this pitching and some of the offense, and that's great, like you said that we need like multiple bats and we need power in the lineup and we need stuff to improve because that was the stuff that was hurting us in the playoffs the last year. And very specifically, it was said, I don't want Roman Anthony to feel like he has to be savior of this team. and we did nothing to prevent that. And so these are things that Breslow himself is saying, front office is saying, and then they didn't deliver on any of that. And then they were shocked when the offense was doing piss poor to begin the year. And it's doing fine now. Like it's not blowing people away. It's like a slightly above average offense the past month. But like if we had gotten just one more like legitimate bat in this lineup this offseason, um, then then there's nothing to really blame Breslow for. But when you're telling us that you need something and then you just choose to pivot and do a different direction, like logically it might make a little bit of sense, but you still didn't address any of the problems that you yourself said that were problems. So it's hard. The longer the season's gone on, I mean, like, I've been saying this since Breslow took over. Breslow would be such a good number two guy in an organization. Like if he was the guy behind Eddie Romero, and Eddie Romero was like the front facing guy, and Breslow was making a lot of the decisions behind the scenes and had like a lot of influence. I just think that Breslow's not a good like front facing person. I don't think he connects well with people. And even though I think he's gotten a little bit better at that over the past year, um, I mean, it's been so noted over time, just like the robotic nature of him, and I don't think that that's helped him at any point in his tenure with the Red Sox. So, um, yeah, I mean, Contreras was essentially to replace Bregman. Bregman was here essentially to replace Devers. Even though they were here at the same time, like you got Roman up, so you had Roman and Bregman, who was supposed to be like Devers, Bregman, and then we had Roman and Contreras, which was supposed to be like Roman and Bregman. But if you're saying that you need more than just Roman and one other person, you didn't do that. And then Roman was struggling, and then it was just the one person. And so we were down one person from where we were already down last year. And so, yes, very, very annoying. But we don't have to dig into that anymore. It's just, yeah, I think I probably would not have fired Cora, but I probably would have also done this offseason different, which, maybe it wouldn't have worked out. Maybe it wouldn't have, because a lot of the guys that I was potentially interested in, they haven't done well this year. So that's I don't run the front office for a reason. So let's go back to some of these prospects here. ND Azakar. So all right, ND Azakar. If you guys have not heard of ND or aren't in on ND, oh, they don't have, do they? ND Azakar is very interesting. Um, there we go. So again, ND Azakar, they don't have bat speed metrics where he's playing right now, and uh, at high. So this is what he was doing at single A earlier this season, and then he's been promoted um, up to high A since then. So let's just go through his regular stats first, and then we'll go into his savant metrics. Okay, so earlier this year, ND was doing awesome at high A. He was one of the more productive players when he was playing at rookie ball last year. Um, Red Sox got really excited about him for what he had done at the end of the year. He was ranked like a in the 20s ranked prospect on Sox prospects. But he batted 385 and with a 1006 OPS in 14 games at rookie ball. And then when he got promoted up to single A last year, he just didn't do very well at all. Um, this year, he started off the season again strong at single A. And since he's been called up to Greenville, he's again struggled. So he's doing that same thing what we talked about earlier with like Marcelo Mayer. He's like promotes up a level and doesn't do well at that level, and then does well at the level for opportunity. And I think that the thing that's really exciting about Indy is he's also a good fielder. So he follows a very similar type profile to like how Franklin Arias is at this point in their career. I want to say that Endy's probably about a year behind on him. Because he's 19, Franklin's 20, but like if you were to see a potential jump from him year over year, I think that it wouldn't be that crazy because you already look at his numbers: 13 home runs right now, 11 stolen bases, 264 batting average, and OPS. Like for the full year, that's really pretty good. And even at high A, where I mean, I'm acknowledging he's struggling a little bit, he still has a 441 slugging percentage. Like he still has 7 home runs and 6 doubles in just 34 games. Like 7 home runs in 34 games is very good. And he is striking out more than you'd like to see. It's not the same exact type of hitter, but when you're talking about the defensive profile combined with the offensive upside, there's a possibility that we're looking at Endy and he could be a top 100 prospect by the end of this year, or he could be a top 100 prospect easily by next season. And this is a guy that signed with the Red Sox organization for like nothing, $40,000. He was like a fill-in candidate that they got internationally, and a lot of these guys that signed for like sub 100,000 just kind of there to fill out the DSL leagues and stuff, and you just wait and see what you have. Um, but he's been very impressive, and he's another one of those guys where if we had um, metrics that show bat speed and metrics that show how they are um, exit velocities. That's what I'm trying to say. If we had exit velocities, kind of like Gonzalez, Gonzalez probably would be sitting at like 95th percentile and higher, but Endy's probably going to be sitting in that 85-ish range, which is still really good. Like for a 19-year-old, he has very good exit velocities already, and then he has a strong defensive profile in center field. Like he can probably stay in center field, probably be an average to above average center fielder pretty easily. And then we look at this too, something that Franklin Arias does not have: fast. 94th percentile in speed. Like these are things that when you are looking at a young prospect that's going to potentially develop to more, these are the profiles where it's like, okay, 19-year-old at high A is fast, good defender, and it has showing advanced metrics and advanced power right now at that level. Like he needs to work on some things still, clearly, but Endy Azakar is one of those guys that it would not take that much of a tweak for him to develop into a top 100 prospect. Like it's not going to take that much. If he was batting 280 right now at high A, he's a top 100 prospect, and batting 230 right now. Um, question: who should we get at the trade deadline? So there's a couple interesting guys. This is going to sound a little crazy, and like I know people are going to disagree with me on this. Um, But the guy that I want to target the most right now at the trade deadline, legitimately, this is not even crazy, is Francisco Lindor. Um, I know we just watched him play with the Mets. That team is not going anywhere. There are a couple reasons behind this. Lindor is having the worst season of his career right now. Like we'll look at his stats here and then talk about the bad things first, and then we'll talk about why I think that it makes sense for us to do this. Um, so we'll just hypothetically say that the Mets are open to dealing him. Um, in 40 games this year, so he's missed some time with injury. He has 5 home runs and a 671. Yes, 86 OPS. Essentially, if we were trading for him, it would be like us trading for another Jaron Duran. Jaron Duran's doing even wow, but it would feel like we get like another Jaron Duran in the lineup. Um, and so why would I want to target them? Well, I think that Francisco Lindor A is going to be available because they're talking about wanting to move him. The Mets have been like leaking information, basically saying that Juan Soto and um, Francisco Lindor don't get along, and they're not getting rid of Soto. So if they're already saying, and it's kind of known within the industry that Lindor is somebody who potentially available, um, then he's going to be kind of available for cheaper on the dollar. Um, and so his contract is he's got a lot of money left on it. So $34 million for another 5 seasons through his age 37 season. Um, the the Mets would probably have to eat like half this contract at least. I think that they would be willing to sub 20. So if you're getting Lindor, we'll just say for the next 5 years at $100 million. Um, I think that there is a way that we can make this worth it. And I had mentioned earlier, like trading uh, uh, Anthony Ianson potentially. I don't even know if you would need to trade somebody like Ianson for Francisco Lindor, because he's been doing so poorly. But I would not be opposed potentially putting Ianson in a deal for Lindor, um, depending on the money that's eaten. Now, this is why I think that Lindor is somebody who should be potentially targeting. So we've already established the Mets are leaking information saying that they want to trade him. They've already said that they're going to eat money. Him and Soto don't get along. So it's not going to cost as much as you would think to get Francisco Lindor. Um, he's having a very bad season. But look at his baseball savant page. And so overall, there's a lot of red still on here. Um, look at what he's done the past couple of seasons. So he had an 812 OPS with 31 home runs, 844 OPS with 33 home runs. So kind of memory bank this really quick. And we're going to go down here. Down one more. That's a little bit higher. 2025, where he had an 812 OPS and 31 home runs and 31 stolen bases, compared to 2026, are almost the same. Like, if we could get a guy that could come in and be like, hey, this is going to be an 800 OPS guy, and look at his fielding run value, 66 overall, plus 2 defensive run saves last year, 71. Like, he's still a good fielder. I think that his regression to the mean is coming, and he would be able to invigorate this offense a little bit more than you would think. Getting out of New York, it's very possible. I do think it's possible. Um, Marte, let's go back here. What do you think we can get Ketel Marte, the perfect number 3 hitter? So Marte, let's look at Marte here. Obviously, there was a ton into Marte this last offseason. I how far Marte's still under contract for as long as Lindor is. Uh, yeah, he's got player option. That's what it was. So he's worth a lot less. And the Diamondbacks probably still would eat some money on this, but not a lot. Maybe like $5 million per season, possibly. So maybe if you can get this down, if you're trading for Marte, it's going to cost you a lot. Like it's going to start with Anthony Ianson for sure. Um, which again, I think that if you're trading for Ianson, you're getting like peak value, and then yeah, you fit in at second base pretty well, which we still have potentially in. Couple of questions people asked. What about Story? How close are we to being able to dump him? So Trevor Story is washed. I'll tell you. I wanted us to trade him last offseason a little bit. I wasn't sure how he was going to be this year, but he recouped some of his value the year prior. But like you look at these numbers, and this is last year. We're looking at 2025. His value, like, yeah, there were some positive things that we had seen in here, but there's just so much that was pointing to regression. Um, and 2026, obviously, we're seeing that. I think if he comes back, he's not going to help this team. Um, and I don't know. He's a bench player at this point. I think that Trevor Story is definitely a potential like designate for assignment candidate. It maybe not this year, but probably next year. I think we might have to stick him out throughout the rest of this year. So like let's look at Story really quick. I think he only has one more year of control. Yeah. So I think they would dump him probably early on next season pretty easily. That's I guess 1 year of control and then the buyout. Like it wouldn't. They might do it at the end of this year. Like if the Red Sox, if Trevor Story's getting DFA'd at the end of this year, it's because the Red Sox are really good and they can't afford to have Trevor Story screwing that up. So like say the Red Sox go from here in the next 30, 40 games, and say over the next 40 games, say they win 23, 24 games like that. And it's just like, wow, this team's actually really good. And then Trevor Story tries to come back. It's like they'll probably give him a couple of weeks. But I think if you're at the beginning of September and Trevor Story is just like fighting it and not doing well, um, they would potentially DFA him at that point to just try to get him off the roster before the playoffs and try to reset the team where they want it to be. But or they could just have him on the roster as like a bench player and then just don't put him on the playoff roster, which would be embarrassing. But I don't know. I don't know how they would handle the money on this. If it was me, I would have traded him for pennies on the dollar last offseason. Tried to get as much of that money off the books as humanly possible. Um, Alvarez is a power hitter. He's better. What am I? I want Jordan Alvarez. Um, nobody's getting Jordan. I think that he's going to stay in Houston. I think that they're gonna like. I don't know why they would trade him at this point. Like Houston obviously wants to contend. They've got 2 more years of control over him. He's an MVP candidate. Like if they would trade him right now and he wins the MVP, like that doesn't happen like ever. So I don't think he's going anywhere. It would have to be an insane haul. Like it would be Ianson, Franklin Arias, and then probably like Andy Azakar and I don't know, maybe Marcelo Meyer or somebody like that. Like they're gonna get like 4 pieces for Jordan that are legitimate pieces potentially, and so um, I just don't think there's anybody who's gonna do that. Like the only team that I could think of that potentially could do something like this would be the Milwaukee Brewers because they just have so many top 100 prospects. Like they could trade 4 of them for Jordan Alvarez and still have like another 4 top 100 prospects. Um, and then I mean, if they wanted to do that, hats off to them. But I don't see Houston. I don't see Houston being able to even deal him, like finding a trade partner that you would get equal value back for him because it's just like Jordan Alvarez is a top 5 player in baseball right now, like a top 5 overall player. It's just those players don't get traded very often, especially when you have multiple years of control over them. Um, what package do you think we can get for Sonny? Um, yeah, I think Sonny Gray. If you trade him, the Red Sox would probably eat some of that money. And if it was me, I would probably expect at least one top 100 prospect back for him. Maybe somebody in like the lower like 50 and below. You might get somebody higher. I could be you could be surprised because Sonny Gray. The thing you need to understand about him is he's going to be the second best starting pitcher potentially available, and the Red Sox could still deal Sonny Gray and then buy other players back. And so if you are trying to deal Sonny Gray to a contender that needs starting pitching, like we've got a surplus of starting pitching, Sonny Gray's been like one of the better players in that. But another thing, and I mentioned this with Ianson before, Sonny Gray is really overperforming um, kind of his metrics. So like he's got a 2.54 ERA. His expected ERA is 3.61. Like and these savant numbers, I mean they're good. Like they're very good, but this isn't like top 5 pitcher in baseball or top 5 pitcher in the American League good. Like this would be like, yeah, number 2 or number 3 starter good. And so I think that there's a very clear sign that there could be regression later in this year for Sonny Gray. And so if you were trading Sonny, like again, you're selling high on Sonny. If you eat some of that money, you can get at least a top 100 prospect back. Probably another, I would assume it'd be like a package of at least 2, maybe 3 or 4 prospects. Um, and the others would be, decent prospects, like top 10, 15 prospects within people's farm system. So definitely players that could turn out well, but just not top 100 type guys. Um, so yeah, I would be very open to dealing Sonny Gray. Honestly, I have to be fully transparent on that because I think that like I can see the regression coming from him. And even though the Red Sox like he's doing well with them right now, it's just I don't know. I don't see him. I can see the regression coming. Um, overpay for let's see here we go. Totally Marcelo Ianson for Alvarez. Um, we know that the Astros have asked about having Marcelo before. So I know that they like him, but Marcelo's had such a bad year and he's injured. His value is relatively have to be like the third or fourth piece in that, which in that proposal, Tolly Ianson, Marcelo, he would be the third. Tolly is looking like a number 2 starter. So Ianson, if they value him high enough, that would be like a top 10 prospect. I mean, you're not too far off. Holy Marcelo Ianson for Alvarez. I mean, you'd probably still need to toss in another 2 prospects in there. I would think it would be a haul. Like it would be a lot. So if we were going to go through the Sox prospects list, like if we'll just say Tolly Marcelo Ianson is the baseline for it, you're probably still going to get guys like probably Henry Godbout. He's looking like a top 100 prospect. I would bet he'd be in there, and then maybe a guy like John Holobetz, who's looking like a potential major league starting pitcher. So they would get a lot back. But get to get Jordan Alvarez. I mean, we just don't have a guy like that in the lineup, so I would give a lot for him. I would. Um, if Sandoval has two more good starts, what's the package you think you can get for Sandoval? You know, I don't think it's going to be a ton, but you probably can get two flyer prospects, especially if you eat a lot of that money. Like we're talking maybe a top 10 prospect in somebody's farm system and then like another top 15, 20 prospects. You can get like two or three half decent prospects. Like if you were looking at other people's farm systems and you got like a Henry Godbout type and then like a Harold Rivas type, somebody in the lower minors, I don't think you're going to get too much that's like major league ready or close to the majors. You're probably going to get either low minors talent or you're going to get guys that are like yeah, this guy could be major league ready, but he's probably a reliever next year. Which I mean, they need some like reliever help. So I mean, if you can find a guy that you like that's a reliever in AAA for somebody's team or like in AA, like I mean, I would Patrick Sandoval. I like what Sandoval did in his start, but I don't trust it, and I don't think he's going to be a starter. I think that him and Bayo are going to be really interesting to see what ends up happening. So um, AAA. Let's see. Sandoval's two more good starts. Let's see. That's what I'm saying. Trade Sonny Gray plus you trade Sandoval. You use the chips to go get Kettle, and you triple M. Yeah, I mean, that's the way to kind of do it. I don't think that you're going to use the exact same assets that you get back in trades necessarily, but if you trade Henry Godbout and John Holobet, and then you get guys in that range back for potentially Patrick Sandoval, like then you can use those assets to trade for guys like Marte or whatever. So yeah, no, I'm on board with something like that. You don't touch Tolly, Arias plus Witherspoon and Romero. Everyone is in the game. Um, yeah, I wouldn't trade Tolly. I wouldn't trade Tolly. I think that there's too much to like about Tolly for one, and this team needs likable players. Plus, he's also really good. Like, I don't think you'd get the like if you're trading Tolly, it's gonna be for Jordan Alvarez type thing. Like, I don't even think Ketel Marte. Like, I don't think like Tolly is probably worth more than Marte. So I don't think that there's a way that they could even ask for him. But you look at what Tolly's doing here. Like Tolly's probably one of the most valuable um, pitchers in all of baseball. Like if you were legitimately putting Tolly on the table, I mean, you should be getting Jordan Alvarez type player back, like something. I mean, not necessarily him, but something in that comparable range where it's just like a wow move. Like, oh my gosh, like you got that player back for Peyton Tolley, and because if you're trading Tolley and you get Ketel Marte back, I think you're gonna have people happy about that, and I would probably not be super happy because Marte's 32, whereas like you trade guys like Tolley for guys like Garrett Crochet, right? Where it's like if you're getting Garrett Crochet back and you trade Peyton Tolley, it's like, okay, yeah, Peyton Tolley's awesome, but we got Garrett Crochet. You know what I mean? Like nobody cared that we traded Brady Montgomery or Kyle Teal because we got Garrett Crochet back. Like that's what it would have to be for Peyton Tolley. Um, so don't touch. They need outfielders. I'd drive Marcelo to Houston myself. Um, I just think his value is so weak right now. I mean, you have to try to recoup it somehow. It's kind of like I don't know. Not Christian Campbell's dead. Basically, I don't. Poor guy. I really hope that he figures it out. But he needs to go to like a different hitting school and try to do it. I mean, obviously, we've seen what Christian Campbell can do. He can be one of the best players in all of minor league baseball, and he performed for the first 30 days in the major leagues. Just yeah, Marcelo. Yeah, I'm sure. I'd almost rather us deal Bayo since he's not looking to be a starter. Bayo has no value because of his contract. Um, I do, I do think Bayo is more valuable to us than he would be to somebody else. And like his ERA is horrible, but like you look at him in relief appearances, and like we have so many starting pitchers right now, and I want this to be understood because um people are looking at Bayo and thinking like he's got zero value to this team. Um, I think that that's flawed. And the reason I say that is because clearly, as a reliever, doing so much better. Um, like they had split it into here we go. The .91 ERA, a .91 ERA in 5 relief appearances in 29 innings pitched. And then his ERA in starts 10.35. This is almost unfathomable type splits. Like this obviously meant or something in there. But what's our starting rotation look like right now? Like check out our starting rotation and see if somebody can point out what the problem is here. So we have Conley Early, Peyton Tolley, Jake Bennett, and then like other guys that have made starts where we got in here. Eduardo Rivera, Gamboa, Oviedo's dead, obviously, but like three of our most important pitchers right now, Conley Early, Peyton Tolley, and Jake Bennett, um, they have not pitched like 100 innings in their career ever, like any of these guys, and they're all approaching that. So Early's already at 91 innings pitched, Tolley's at 84, Jake Bennett, he got more minor leagues as well. But these guys, they just haven't done a full workload. So when you're looking at the second half of the season, they've done awesome. But what are they going to do in the second half? And you don't want to just shut these guys down. I doubt that the Red Sox would do that, especially because they need them if they're going to go anywhere. But they're not going to be. They're going to be going innings where it's like outings where they're pitching 70 pitches. And that's just how it's going to be. Like you already saw that with Peyton Tolley last week, where it's like, he's pitching 4 innings and getting out. And that's where Brian Bayo's value is going to come in. And he's going to be important. And I just like his contract, he just makes too much money for anybody to want him. And he really doesn't make that much money, but like for like the CBA purposes, I think it's like $9 million. But the overall money that's actually owed to him, people just aren't going to want to pay $20 million to a pitcher that has like a negative 1.3 WAR this year. But again, if you just leave him in that reliever role, the bulk reliever thing, and let him figure his stuff out, like, yeah, man, I would just keep him there. I mean, he's proven enough, I feel like, that he can do well out of a reliever role. I mean, and I think you're just going to need that bulk reliever heading into this year. And that's another reason why if you hang on to a guy like Patrick Sandoval and he's a bulk reliever for you at the end of the year, giving you 2 to 4 innings regularly, like cool, like you can have maybe one or two of these guys in your bullpen, especially when rosters expand later this year, um, as guys that are going to give you those bulk innings, and I think it's going to help you. So, let's see, kind of getting behind them. Um, Personally would prefer Marte over Alvarez if you have to pay that high of a price. Yeah, I mean, I I don't know. It's an interesting conversation because the people everything's a bell curve, right? And so like or like an opposite bell curve. So the talent that you're going to have to get. So Jordan Alvarez, this is going to make no sense, I hope. Jordan Alvarez is like top end talent. And so you have to pay like twice as much as you'll pay for Ketel Marte, even though Marte is still really good. It's just like it goes up so fast, so quickly here that you really need like it's like double the assets just because of how much better Jordan is. Um and I think that's where people like get mistaken where they're like, oh, why can't we can just get like 2 or 3 above average bats like in an off season instead of just getting the one elite player. Well, like the elite player is worth so much more to you than the 2 or 3 above average bats because like if you have an average bat in 2 of those spots and then you have an elite player, I would rather have that one elite player than I would rather have, 2 or 3 above average bats because the elite guy is like if it's like a number one type guy, it's like a Bobby Witt Jr. or a Mike Trout in his prime or like Otani in the most extreme scenario. It's just like those elite top 5, 10 players in baseball, which is what Jordan Alvarez is right now, are just worth so much more than the guy who's like the 40th best player. And the 40th best player in the league is still, he might be the best player on his team. Like easily could be the best player on his team, but he's still just not even in the same realm as the guy that's the third or fourth best player. And that's what Jordan Alvarez is. So that's why it just costs so much more um, for that. Tolley's Crochet was with Chicago 2 years ago, I mean, it's a fair comparison. Um, you would exactly can't touch totally. Yeah, yeah, I would nobody's off the table in my brain when it comes to trades, almost nobody. Um, but Tolly would have to get you so much is just what it is. It would just it I you can't trade Tolly for just like I think like I said, I don't Tolly for Ketel Marte. The Diamondbacks would have to eat like at least half that contract for it to be worth it in my mind. Um, Totally is too reliant on his fastball. It's a disaster waiting to happen. I don't think so. There's too many players out there that are like fastball pitchers. I mean, you look at what Cam Schlittler, like what he's a fastball pitcher, like literally just throws fastballs. Um, and like what is he just the best pitcher in baseball? Like, I mean, all he throws is fastballs, four seam cutter, sinker. Like those are his top three pitches. Like his off speed stuff is 9 percentile. Like literally, these are fastballs. He throws fastballs 91% of the time, and he's the best pitcher in the American League. Like, I'm not afraid of fastballs. Like, he throws a good fastball. Like, let him throw fastballs. Um, Early and Bennett. Uh, I'm game for early for Bennett and early, but not totally. I think yeah, you can't. I trading them both in one deal would be crazy. Like I think if you were to trade Bennett and early or like Jordan, I wonder how interested that they would be, the Astros. Because Early and Bennett have both shown like they're two very young starters with a lot of control. Um, I wonder if that would approach like how they would feel about getting Tolley, because Tolley is much better than both those guys. But I mean, trading two young starting pitchers in one deal is crazy. But like obviously you wouldn't be trading somebody like Sonny Gray at that point. But if you're getting just like an elite guy back, um, in my brain, there are only four untouchable players: Tolley, Arias, Witherspoon, Arrow. Um, Tolley's not untouchable. Like I kind of just talked about it. It would he's close to it. Like I'll concede the point. Arias, um, it would have to be for somebody like if you're trading Arias or Tolley, it has to be for somebody that has like already a clear track record of success in the major leagues. It can't just be for fodder. Witherspoon and Romero, I wouldn't trade Witherspoon just because I think his value is down. And so, like, there's no point to trading him right now. Like, he's not worth what he was 6 months ago. So why would you trade him right now? Like, just let him continue to get better, which he is getting better. And Romero, so let's go to Romero, Mikey Romero. We've gotten really off track on this a little bit, but I think we're having a good conversation, so it doesn't matter. Um, Romero's doing a little bit better than I thought he was at AAA. His overall numbers are not great, like 243 batting average, but he's got some home runs. His exit velocities are really intriguing. Um, I feel like he's like one good tweak away from reaching some potential. But the problem with Romero is his defense is just not good and he's not very fast. So he's really reliant on him being a hitter, and he's just not a great hitter yet. Like Romero, we look at next year and maybe he can be okay, but I don't know. I mean, it's a tough profile to look at when you see him here. The exit velocities, like I said, are very encouraging. This is good. This is very good. He's still ranked highly on the prospect score here. Um, but I'm just unsure. Like their comp, they Novelli Marte 2023 is the comp that they have for him. So let's what did Novelli Marte? I mean, I don't see that personally, but I could be wrong. I think that there's potential for him to get better. He's not going to get worse right now. Um, they won't, but I will. Let's see. I get the struggle. Doesn't happen. Yeah, I think that there's like a mismanagement of assets, and they with the Red Sox particularly, they don't strive to go after peak talent very often. Like they got Garrett Crochet, and that was the one instance that I can think of in recent memory where it's like they put their nuts on the table and then they just got the guy, right? Like when was the last time that they overpaid for a guy? Because you remember that transaction
at the time. Basically, what was happening is they had the deal that was being offered was Chase Mydroff, um, Wickelman Gonzalez, and Brady Montgomery, or not Brady Montgomery, Kyle Teal. Those were the three players that were being offered, and they were just like, he's like, no, we're not going to do that deal. And he's like, they weren't going to add it. And then literally Breslow just called them and was like, okay, we'll throw in Brady Montgomery. They were like, deal. And so, um, Brady Montgomery obviously is going to be a really good player, but like they slightly, they probably gave more than they needed to get the deal done. Like I think if you would have traded somebody else at the time that was a little bit lower in the prospect ratings, like you didn't need to go Brady Montgomery level. Like you probably could have traded somebody like, I don't know, like Juan Valera maybe at the time, or some other guys to kind of piece it together. Maybe two more guys. And so you can criticize maybe that a tiny bit just because it does sound like we overpaid in that situation. But we also criticize Breslow for not being willing to overpay. And so, in my opinion, I'd rather get the deal done and get the guy. And so, I think that getting this top end talent. That's why I don't think anybody is off the table. And if you legitimately, if the Astros were willing to have a conversation about Yordan Alvarez, I would want to have the conversation and just see where they're at. Be like, okay, what is it going to take? Like, what would it take? Like, if you want players, like, what is it going to be? Like, anybody on the major league and minor league roster, ask about them, and I'll tell you yes or no. And as long as it doesn't include Roman Anthony, which I think Roman Anthony, like, I think his value is still really high, but it's also gone down a little bit. I think he's the only guy in the organization right now that I can legitimately look at and be like, you're probably not going to trade Roman Anthony. Um, uh, Romero's been at the plate. Yeah, I mean, he's been getting better, but yeah, I don't think he's a major league hitter right now. Um, Marte has better value than Alvarez. Marte will play second base. Alvarez is only DH. Yeah, I mean that's fine. If you got Alvarez, you probably would just designate for assignment Cheetah. Early and Bennett have way better off-speed pitches. I agree than Tolle, if I think that's what you're talking about. But Tolle's fastball is just like much better. Like across the board, Bennett's arsenal and Early's arsenal, I think, is more like consistent. Like all of their pitches are average or better. But Tolle has also elevated his slider a lot this year. So we can go back over to Tolle really quick and I'll tell you what I'm talking about. So his breaking ball and off speed value, like it's not like it's above average. That's significantly different from last year where his off speed run value, like these weren't very good, and his fastball wasn't bats the way that it needed to. But like if his fastball is this is borderline elite, I mean way above average, and then you have above average breaking ball and off speed pitches right now. Um, like he doesn't even have to throw them that much. I mean he's actually throwing his fastball almost as much as Cam Schlittler is right now. Um, so he probably needs to throw this curveball and change up a little bit more, just considering the results that he's getting. But if you can throw three fastballs that give you different angles, the cutter, the cutter is actually much. I didn't realize there was such a significant speed drop off with the cutter, but he's got two fastballs that give you two different looks, and then the cutters. This is more of almost like a changeup. With that speed, cutter and changeup are almost the same speed. Um, I think he's got a more advanced arsenal than you think. Is kind of the point that I'm making. And yeah, I mean, maybe Bennett just across the board has better control, but it's not like this guy's doing very bad either. Like chase percentage, 8th percentile. He's not walking a ton of guys. Like, does Romero project to stay at shortstop? No, I don't think so. I think he's a second baseman or third baseman. The key is Crochet being available to pitch by August, and you make Bennett available for only Ketel Marte or Alvarez. I think Bennett absolutely is available for either one of those guys. Like if you trade Bennett for Marte or Alvarez, I'd be happy with that, 100%. How is Wilkinson doing? Wickelman Gonzalez. I think he's injured, if I remember right. But he did pretty well last year, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he had a nice year for them last year. 2.66 ERA. This is kind of up and down. Walked a lot of guys, but I'm pretty sure he's injured if I remember correctly. But this was a really nice performance from him for a rookie, I think. Um, Romero was once compared to Ketel Marte. I don't see that at any point. That would he would have to really, really develop more. Um, yeah, Crochet. The Roman Empire was sent to Siberia. The MLB Fort Myers back in early August. Yeah, Mikey, why do you hate? Uh, yeah, I don't hate him. Just overhyped guy. Totally not overhyped. I don't think. I think maybe a little bit just because of his personality. I think it takes him up a notch, and probably his value feels a little bit more just because he's such a likable person. But like, I think it's there's not a lot of conversation to be had about what he's doing. And um, to put your mind at ease with Tolly a little bit here, I want you to look at what he did at AAA this year because it's pretty insane. This is his AAA stats this year. And so, um, this is very, very good. Um, like he was legitimately like the best pitcher at AAA this year by his age. And actually, we'll go to the leaderboard and I will show you. I think he was actually like the best prospect at AAA this year, pitching prospect. So AAA, and then we're going to swap over to hitters here. Peyton Tolley, right there. 99.81 percentile. He was the second best pitcher in AAA this year, and I think this guy's a reliever for the Yankees. I'm almost positive. He was the best starting pitcher in all of AAA this last year, behind Noah Schultz, who Noah Schultz is being treated like a god in New York as like the second coming of Christ. That's what they're treating him like, or in Chicago, I mean, sorry. And so, um, you see some of these pitchers that are in here too, like even Eduardo Rivera is doing really well, but like Peyton Tolley was very good at AAA, and he is doing almost as good in the major league. So I think the criticism of Tolley is a little bit unwarranted, to be honest. Um, a team who hits fastball really well at Plunk, boy Kershake, Wookaman whoops. Fellas, imagine late August, the Roman Empire is batting two, Rafaela, or Will. Yeah, I don't hate that. Um, I think getting Duran to bat ninth for the rest of the year is actually kind of a good call because then it's like a lineup turnover thing, and then you be like, dude, you don't have to worry about anything. Just like you're batting ninth, like he's got a little bit of thump in the bottom of the lineup. Like Duran can do what Duran does, and hopefully he can fix his brain by the end of this year, and then we can trade him. 'Cause we've missed the window on trading him at peak value, but if he can recoup some of it this year, I think that he clearly needs to be traded. Um, so anyway, I think I've caught up with you guys' questions and marks on this. So let's go back to some of these prospects. So the newest one on this list is Franklin Primera. So if you guys have not heard of what Franklin Primera has been doing here, let me enlighten you because it's pretty insane. Uh, Franklin. So these were Franklin Primera's stats in rookie ball this year before he got called up. 427 batting average, 549 on base percentage, 718 slugging percentage, 1267 OPS, 8 home runs in 32 games. Um, this is very, very impressive. This is a guy that signed, I want to say, for like $10,000. Like it was almost nothing. Like I can go back over here to his page. $10,000 signing bonus. So this was a complete, just like fill out the roster. We'll see what he has. The most exciting thing about Franklin Primera to me is obviously this hitting is like this is almost like a legendary performance at that level. I mean, even in rookie ball, like yeah, he's 19, whatever, but like this is huge numbers for even the sample size. Um, he is a defensive catcher first, so like he has a strong defensive profile to start off. And if you have a catcher, which like okay, you already can see the potential for him to have a strong defensive upside. Young catcher with considerable defensive upside. Development will largely turn on how his bat develops and his defense advanced for his age needs to get stronger, but some intriguing offensive traits. This was the profile that was given at the start of the season before any of this stuff kind of popped out. If you have a guy that's above average defensively and can hit reasonably at the major league level, like that's the type of guy that's a top 100 prospect pretty easily. Um, he's only played in 10 games at Salem, has done not well. I've watched some of his at bats. They haven't been particularly impressive. I watched some of his video. They don't really have like broadcasts in the FCL, but I watched some of the video and um, it's pretty like some of the hitting was very impressive. We have no metrics really in the FCL that are available to us, but from what I've heard from the Sox prospects guys, it was very advanced and very impressive, and he was like clearly the best player in the league essentially. So keep keep him on your radar because the Sox prospects guys, I want to also make this point. They're really conservative how they update their rankings. So for example, like most guys, if they perform well in rookie ball, they're going to be in the 30s range. You're going to see some guys in here, DSL like right here. Like this is a perfect example. Silverito is 29th overall and then you have some other guys that are here like Harold Rivas was like an impressive player and he's 15th. Like this is generally like the peak of where people are. They have put him at 7th overall. This is a huge indictment what they are seeing from him behind the scenes and what he has already shown to begin with. So we'll see what ends up happening with him. It's going to be very interesting how the rest of the year plays out for Premier. I would be shocked if he goes above Salem, but he could be in Greenville next year. And I mean, it's going to be a multi-year process with him, but he is an extremely interesting prospect. And for him to be in the top 10 already at this young of an age, yeah, it's very, very interesting. Franklin Arias is the best him. Special. Yeah, for sure. We desperately need a number 3 hitter. Speaking of Narvi, Chad Tracy, a crap, stop playing players. Uh, yeah, I think that yeah, Franklin Arias. I think he's definitely a Gold Glove caliber player. I'm wondering how good his defense actually is. If he is like that top tier, he was second last year in minor league defensive player of the year. So, like, out of the entire minor league baseball, he came in second for the defensive player of the year, which, I mean, that's like 5 levels of the minor leagues, and he got second. So, if that's any indication to how good defensively he is, it means he's one of the best defenders, like you said, in all of baseball right now. And if that's what he ends up being, not just a Gold Glove candidate, but like a potential Platinum Glove candidate, we have a Platinum Glove player at shortstop, and then we have a Platinum Glove player in center field. Like it gets really interesting really quick. Like you can have more defensive liabilities on the field, like a Jordan Alvarez. Like if he was playing left field and you have Sadon in center and Willier in right, it's like, well, who gives a shit? Like you still have one of the better outfielders in baseball patrolling the other 2 spots. They can make up some of that ground. So it's just like, Jordan's probably not going to play in the field much, but Heinsohn, Witherspoon, allow Bresbot to trade one of both Early and Bennett. Um, yeah, I mean, I personally, I think I would trade Ianson and like Early or Bennett if I was doing a big. Uh, I wouldn't trade like both Early and Bennett or Ianson and with. So if it was me, I probably would trade like maybe Ianson Bennett right now. Like if I was gonna do something about it. He was compared to Ozzie Smith defensively by Lou Merloni. Yeah, I mean, I like Lou. I don't know if he's watching minor league baseball as much as I am, to be honest. He's really good though. Um, Henry Godbout. So well, let's look at Godbout's numbers. I am really bummed out that he got injured. Um, because he was putting on a season that was sneaky, sneaky good. So last year when he got signed, he only played in a couple weeks in the minors, but he performed well, and so that was a good indication of potentially success. Um, this year, though, in Greenville, he was doing very well. 7 home runs, 277 batting average, he had 902 OPS, and I think he was like continuing to get better as the season had went along. And then I'm pretty sure he got hit by hit by a pitch in the hand and then had to have surgery, which is a huge bummer because hand injuries can be so fickle. And you just don't know how it's going to be. But um, like he was having some nice games here later in the month. Like he had a stretch where he hit 3 home runs in 4 games. I don't think he's going to be back this year. I think it's just kind of going to be a wash, honestly. But yeah, like if you skip his last 90 days, so 27 games, take out the first like few games, this is what he was doing for most of the season. He was like a 1,000 OPS guy. Um, really impressive. He was kind of had a balanced type of approach against left-handed pitchers and right-handed pitchers. Like his batting average was different here, but his OPS was significantly better. So, um, like month over month, he was improving. I look at Godbout. So he was our second round pick last year. I think he was actually our third pick in the draft because I think we added like a comp. He was a comp pick. Um, yeah, the God, yes, and I'll talk about that Vish as we go a little bit further. But yes, Godbout's thing when he was in the um, being drafted is he just didn't have a whole lot of power. Like when you look at like his NCAA numbers, like 9 home runs is nice, 8 home runs is good. Like these aren't bad power numbers. He was a hit over power type guy, and that is a huge trademark of what this organization does right now is they target guys where they have great contact skills and then they're like, let's give them power. Like let's get them in the bat speed program and let's try to do more. The most prime example of this is Christian Campbell, where when he was drafted and we can talk about his success in the major league, whatever, but like he's a clear example of success when it comes to being able to adjust him. So like this is what he was in Georgia Tech before he was drafted. 45 games, 4 home runs, like 376 batting average. Not a lot of power. And then his first year in the minor leagues, he hit 20. And then he got called up like the next year. Like it was so fast for what he did. But he went from a 4 home run guy to a 20 home run guy. And like the sample size is obviously a lot larger. Even if you double this, it's like a 10 home run guy. So he doubled his home run output essentially in 1 year. And then while maintaining like his hit tool. This is what the Red Sox were able to do type of player. And that's essentially what they were kind of doing with Godbout. Um, so I think that I want to see what he does when he comes back from injury because like I said before, it's hand stuff. You just don't know how that's going to turn out. But if Godbout can come in and continue to do what he's doing here, I mean, if he played a full season, he's hitting 22 to 25 home runs probably, which we have like very few players in the minor leagues that do that this year. And if he had a 20 home run season with a 900 OPS, he's probably a top 100 prospect in baseball because his defensive profile is solid too. When you look at it, um, average defensive profile at second base will make routine plays. Oh, I thought it was better. Right-hand hitter with contact over hip profile, elite contact skills, fits the mold of college bats. Red Sox have targeted and elevated in recent drafts, like what I was talking about with Campbell. Bat speed has improved from frame. If he can hit the ball harder more consistently without sacrificing much contact, could develop into an intriguing middle infield prospect, which is literally exactly what was happening this year before injury. So, but Godbout's one to keep an eye on. There's a reason he's a top 10 prospect in the system right now. Um, he's a good one. So can we go back to Primera? You think he can make MLB next year? No way. No. Primera is like years away from. But like we're talking, yeah, 2029 is the projection they have from him. Like 3 years, maybe 4 years. Like catchers take longer to develop inherently, but he's way off. Um, I don't see Godbout making the Sox. No, Godbout, yeah, like mid 2028 is what they're projecting for him. That could change based on the injury too, but he's like 2 years off. He's in a high A right now, so he's more advanced than Mira is. But um, yeah, Juan Valera. So briefly, we talked about him earlier, but Valera was doing awesome this year, and then he got hurt. So that's pretty much all we have to say about him. Like he was showing signs of like potentially being a top 100 prospect too, but then he just got hurt. So um, Zadbil Delzine. So this is another guy who people probably just don't know about. Um, wrong. There we go. Um, but he's an elevated prospect this last year. He's still playing in the FCL, but he's doing really well in the FCL right now. It's kind of a more offensive environment. Like pitchers don't do very well down there. And so the fact that he has a 2.43 ERA, 40 strikeouts, he's not walking a ton of players. Like this is really nice. We haven't developed too many players, pitchers out of like the ESL and FCL, but he's a guy that we didn't sign him for very much either. I want to say it was like a pretty low bonus as well. Oh, 500,000. Never mind. It was a decent bonus, but um, but I think you look at this guy and it kind of fits the mold that the Red Sox are looking for. Like he's 6'5", very projectable. Like he already throws in the mid 90s. And so if he's somebody that can continue producing at this level, like he's very young, very raw, but he's already a top 10 prospect in the Red Sox system. Again, like I had mentioned before with Franklin Primera, like when you have guys that are top 10 prospects and they're in these very low minors, like that's pretty interesting. Like that's something that you really want to keep an eye on um, because these are the guys that if he's a number 10 prospect now in 2 years, he's the number 3 prospect, like pretty easily. That's just kind of how the path goes. Dorian Soto, yeah, he was like he's what people were thinking that like what Andy Rodriguez or Andy Alvarez has been doing, Andy Azakar, jeez, has been doing this year. People were kind of hoping for that type of step from Dorian Soto, and it's just not really happening right now. So he's still got potential, but he's dropping a little bit. He was really advancedly scouted earlier on. Like he got one of the higher bonuses in 2025, and he just hasn't lived up to it as much. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of like the top 10 right now. Of all the draftees this year, who do you like the most? I love the tall kid who we got, and I think around 10 high school, 6'7". Yeah, I know who you're talking about. So we can pop over and talk about that. Caleb LaFlavor. Yeah. So um he is pretty interesting. If you want, I can just play you the video that I have of it so you guys can. So I did draft videos for all of these guys. I had clipped them. You guys have seen on the channel. So you guys can watch them, but this is his draft video.
The Boston Red Sox select Caleb LaFavor, a right-handed pitcher at Bishop Heelan Catholic High School in Sioux City, Iowa. San Diego.
I don't know if you guys can hear that. Now that I'm thinking about it.
So, Jim, here's another high school guy.
No, I'm super interested in this guy. He really intrigued evaluators this spring in Iowa. He's 6'7". He's super projectable. He's got all the great delivery metrics. So there's some parallels. I'm not saying he's going to be this guy, but there are parallels to Jacob Mizorowski at the same stage of their careers. I'm not saying this guy's going to throw 105.
Next.
He got up to 95 early in the spring.
Jacob Mizorowski, sorry.
He got up to 95 early in the spring, dipped to 84, 87 in mid-June. So I thought he might be headed to Iowa. The Red Sox have been kind of saving money, and I guess they're going to go big here in the 10th round for Caleb LaFavor. Very intriguing pick. That one kind of made me sit up in my seat.
Yeah, so if you guys let me know if you guys actually heard that or not, because I might do this again. But there's direct comparisons to Jacob Mizorowski, just where he was at this level, and he was not somebody that was projected to be drafted this late. And so we will see what ends up happening, because we'll go back to the draft board overall, and we can kind of shift gears and talk about this. So the Red Sox, they had a very interesting draft, and people are criticizing them a little bit because it almost was like they went a little bit conservative. But essentially what happened is they took, at the number 20 overall pick, they took a guy that was projected to go way further down, like a second, third round pick potentially, in order to save money. And so it remains to be seen what he signs for. But it wouldn't surprise me if Jake Schaffner signs for like $3 million or less. And then they save like more than $1 million potentially on him. And if that's the case, then that's where they're taking some of this money and they're giving to guys like Caleb LaFlavor and Martin Sheelar, who they were projected to be drafted much earlier, but didn't. Now, something that's very interesting about how the Red Sox drafted this year is in the prior year's draft, so in 2025, They only drafted one high school player. And if you look at where they drafted him, they drafted him with the 19th round pick. Like, they didn't draft any high school players last year, essentially. All of these guys were juniors in college, every single one of them. They didn't draft like literally anybody who was worth their time as a high school pick. But you go to what they did this year, and they got Schaffner and Owen Hall. They got them both out of UNC. But then they got a high school pick in the third round, and then they got a high school pick in the ninth round, the 10th round. And so they were like strategically getting some of these high school players, which they have not done in the past. And so I think that if they go and they're like, we saved $1 million here. Hey, Caleb, like we'll give you $700,000 to sign with us, because if he was projected to go, say, maybe in the 6th round and get a signing bonus of $350,000, and he's like, you know what, I'm just going to go back to Iowa. I'm not gonna worry about this right now. But they're like, hey, we'll double the bonus you thought you were going to get to come and sign with us. Like, they clearly think that they can sign some of these guys for a reason. And the other guy that's really interesting is Martin Sheilart, because like ESPN had him at the 80th ranked prospect. So he was like a 3rd round talent potentially, and they drafted him in the 9th round. And so he has some really intriguing attributes as well. But like LaFlavor definitely is one of those guys where it's like you just look at it, and if they can throw a decent amount of money at him and they can get these guys and they can get them in the system, the Red Sox deserve a ton of benefit of the doubt when it comes to developing pitchers. Like, they have shown that they can develop pitchers over the past few years. It's pretty obvious. Like, our entire rotation, for the most part, is um, being held together with homegrown talent or guys that we have elevated. And so, getting some of these guys like the LaFlavors of the world in there is really good. Another interesting shift is that the Red Sox last year's draft. So we'll go back over. They drafted um, pitchers pretty much across the board, like with some of their higher end picks. Obviously, Witherspoon, Phillips, Ianson, Fouch, Leighton Finley, Miles Patton, Dylan Brown. Like, they drafted a ton of pitchers early on. I think it was like 6 of the first 9 picks were college pitchers. And then in this draft, though, they their first 3 picks were all position players, which I think speaks to um, them trying to identify talent that they liked, while also realizing that they need more position player depth in the system. And so if they like these guys and they're like, Schaffner is somebody that they really feel like they can elevate. We talked about Christian Campbell and Godbout before. Um, this is essentially the same type of profile. So we've looked at the Prospect Savant page. This is College Baseball Savant, which I don't have full access to. Somebody shared this on, or College Baseball Savant on X. They shared this one for all the first round picks. This is the same type of player that Godbout and Campbell are, right? Guys that have extremely high contact rates, expected batting average of 98th percentile, expected slugging percentage 86. But look at the exit velocity here. It's just lower. Like, they are successful in spite of having low exit velocities. And so what do the Red Sox do? They get him in their bat speed program, and they take the guy who makes really good contact and has a great approach. They give him a better bat speed, get him stronger, and then he goes from being somebody who's like, yeah, this is a 300 potential type hitter, 280 hitter, and maybe he's going to hit 10 or 15 home runs. And now this is a 280 hitter that's going to hit you 25 home runs. That's projectable. And so this is the type of guy they're going after. Same thing with Owen Hall. Like, these are just guys that they want those advanced hitting tools, and then they want to give them the power, and they feel confident they can do that. And it hasn't translated very well to the major league level for really any of their prospects yet, except for maybe Roman Anthony. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting how they've done it this year, and I want to see the results before I criticize how they've done it, because um, these two guys, too, Schaffner and Owen Hall, not only are they from the same school, they were also college roommates, and they are literally best friends. So they drafted college roommates in with their first 2 picks in the MLB draft. And I was making a joke about it earlier, but it's like the Red Sox scouts, they literally walked in their first dorm room they saw at UNC, and they were like, yeah, we don't need to scout anybody the rest of the year, because they picked the 2 guys that were in that room. So I heard $1 million for LaFlavor, and maybe. I mean, if they toss $1 million at him, I wonder how much it would take to get Martin Sheeler then. Are they gonna save even more money on both Owen Hall and Schaffner? Because Hall kind of went where he was supposed to go, but he was projected to be a better player than Schaffner. So it's like that's interesting. 2-3 million range. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what ends up happening. That's what I'm thinking. I think he's gonna be sub 3, but I thought it was maybe closer to 3. Um all the draftee. So whole way less than a million. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see what ends up happening. I don't know if he'll be way less than a million, but he might be. Um One thing that surprised me is the Red Sox didn't draft a single catcher. Yeah, so in this draft, there were a number of catchers that were in the top 100 that I thought were relatively interesting, but you're right, they didn't go after any of them. And I do wonder if that's because they just aren't concerned about the position right now, or they look at the farm system and they're like, we've added some catching talent. And um, I'm glad that you brought up the catcher because this is one specific point that I wanted to talk about during this, but I haven't had an opportunity to, and now is a good opportunity to. Um, so the Red Sox made a very insignificant trade um, this offseason that nobody really paid any attention to, and I think it's going to come around and pay some dividends too. So Chris Murphy, if you guys remember, was with the Red Sox for a couple of years, had some injury issues, but pitched well for the Red Sox in 2025. So 3.212 ERA, 34 innings pitched, 130 ERA plus. The FIP wasn't great, but he had a nice season for the Red Sox last year. Was a valuable piece for them. And the Red Sox traded him unceremoniously, which I was a little bit surprised about because I thought he was going to get some run this next year for sure. And they acquired a prospect named Ronnie Hernandez. And I, be honest, didn't know much about Ronnie Hernandez at the time at all. Literally didn't know who it was. And then I was kind of just like, well, it's kind of odd that they're selecting this guy that's like in the low minors, this random catching prospect for major league talent. And I mean, from what I understood about him, he wasn't like particularly renowned prospect or anything, but look at what he is doing this year, the Red Sox. And so he had spent the previous 2 seasons at single A and was doing not well, like to be perfectly honest. I mean, he had 175 games at single A over the past 2 seasons, and he was batting like 260 with like a sub 700 OPS. Look at this year, 36 games because he missed the first part of the season due to injury, so he's playing right now. 36 games, 10 home runs, 7 doubles, 272 average, a 1002 OPS while being a catcher. And I want you look at those numbers and it's like, oh, those are really nice numbers. Anything over 1,000 OPS, we look at that, that's good. And he's doing this at high A, which he was not doing anything like that at single A. So going up a level and performing this much better is really good. Another thing that I want you to look at though is this. So his walk rate last year, and in the past, like he had one season where he had a good walk rate. It was more strikeouts, but he has 26 strikeouts this year and only 26 walks to 15 strikeouts. That's really good. And then we're going to look at a Savant page because you guys are going to be shocked when you see this. So we're going to go over to high A. This is just AAA. So I was talking about this earlier, where Peyton Tolley was essentially the best player in all of AAA this year from the pitcher side. So let's go to high A. So we're going to go to hitters. Ronnie Hernandez, 98.89 percentile on the prospect font score. Now let's look at his numbers overall. Look at this screen, dude. Like this is crazy. From just a random guy that we traded for Chris Murphy. Weighted on base average 431 percentile, weighted runs created plus 148, isolated power 99th percentile, K percentage 99th percentile, walk percentage 91st percentile. So the numbers that I always talk about when I'm talking about hitting prospects specifically, literally there's just 2 things that I look at is K percentage and walk percentage. Those are like the number 1 indicators to me on how good somebody can be. Now, is it perfect? No, but it's just like the easiest thing to me look at because if your K percentage is pretty good, or is like in the high percentiles, like obviously that's good. Like you have good contact hitter, like that's a good approach. your walk percentage is really good. Like those two things combined generally speak to this being an advanced hitter. And don't get me wrong, you can have a shitty K percentage and like a great walk percentage, and then I look at other things and it's not a big deal. But to have both of these 90th percentile and above is really impressive. Now, his zone swing percentage, 98th percentile. Basically, what that means is he is swinging everything that's in the strike zone, he's swinging at. His overall swing percentage, though, is only 46th percentile. So, what does that tell you? He's not swinging at bad pitches. Because if he's swinging 98% of the time in the strike zone and he's only at 46th percentile overall, that means anything out of the strike zone, he's just not swinging at. He just sees it perfectly and he's making contact and making hard contact aggressively. Um, this is very, very good, very impressive, and nobody is talking about this. Literally, nobody is talking about it. Look at his comparison here. His MLB comps for what he's doing is Kyle Tucker in 2025. Kyle Tucker in 2025. That's what his MLB comp is right now. The closest comp to him. Like, is he going to be Kyle Tucker? No, that's crazy to think about. I seriously doubt it. But just like this guy came from nowhere. He's probably going to be in Double A this year, and that's the real test. If he can translate some of this to Double A and have similar type success there, or even take a notch below, like if he has an 800 OPS at Double A this year, if he gets promoted, like we are on to something here, like a legitimate potential, like major league caliber catcher. And let's look at the prospect rankings from, because I think he's starting to be featured on the prospects. Do they not have him? They haven't updated it yet. So he's done so well so fast they don't have him yet. But anyway, keep in mind, catching, Ronnie Hernandez, nobody's talking about him yet. Sox prospects hasn't even talked about him enough. What's your opinion on Christian Campbell? AC screwed up his mind, but do you think Campbell will gain of contact? I have no real opinions on Campbell right now. It's kind of, he just needs, I part of me almost thinks that they should just shut him down. A few weeks ago, I was even tossing around the idea where it's like, if the Red Sox are just doing so badly and they're out of competition, and it's like, just call the guy up. Like, call up Campbell in September. What's the worst that's going to happen? Like, he's done so bad in the minor leagues this year that even if he's not good at the major leagues, at least it's like, we still believe in you. We still think we can have you up here at some point. Like, it's just, it's crazy how poor he's done this year. Like 645 OPS, 2 home runs. I mean, and when you're watching him hit, and I watched a lot of Christian Campbell, does not look good. Like he's striking out like in a third of his at bats, and the contact that he's making, like every once in a blue moon, you'll hit a ball and he'll be like, "Wow, look, that's Christian Campbell. That's what I remember," and then it's just gone. Like it's so few and far between. I don't know what to make of him. There's so many different trains of thought with it. I want to say it's mental. His mechanically though, like you look at him swing, and he had such a funky swing to begin with. There was concerns that it was gonna that it couldn't be replicated over time, and we're seeing some of that. I do think it's mental. A lot of it. I mean, how can it not be at this point, right? You're just given $60 million, and now you're like, like they don't even want you playing AAA right now. What's his position? Can he actually play outfield defensively, or is he's not, he's just not good at anything right now. Yeah, defensively, he's not very good. There's nothing that he can, and that's the really hard part about this. There's nothing that you can point to this year for him and call it a success. There's just not. Like, look at him defensively in the outfield this year. Like 929 OP or fielding percentage. He's made 7 errors in the outfield, or 5 errors. Sorry, 5 errors in the outfield. That's quite a few errors to be in the outfield. Like outfielders in a full year, most of them don't make 5 errors, and he's already made 5 errors there. His defensive metrics, when you watch him, just not great. He hasn't played in the infield at all this year. He's an outfielder. Point. But realistically speaking, he needs to be like a DH, but he can't hit. So like, what do we do with him? Like, I mean, he is another like this time next year, if he's doing this, he's gonna be designated for assignment off 40-man roster and like he'll just die in AAA. That's basically what it is. So he's gonna have to fix himself. I wonder if he cares at this point enough to do it because he's like, well, he's already made money for the rest of his life. I don't want to say that that's him. I don't feel like that's him. I've heard him talk a bunch. I know that he cares, but I mean, at a certain point, if you just fail over and over and over and over again, I mean, it's not unreasonable to think it's like, I'm just never going to succeed again. So no team will take him. No way. Nobody would want this guy on their roster, let alone take him with this contract. Um, yeah, but those are kind of like the prospects that are uh most relevant, I think, right now. We had talked about Mike Romero, Yolan Cespedes, Holbets. Like they're having some interesting years. Holbet or Cespedes has 16 home runs this year. I don't know how well he's going to do. I really don't know if he's like a major leaguer, to be honest, because not super great defensively. And yeah, 16 home runs is nice, but I just, I mean, he's doing this at high A. Um, he's already been kind of. I mean, he could be okay. Blake Wehunt, I'm kind of growing on Wehunt a little bit. He's had some really strong performances. So Wehunt, like his outings have been all over the place. Like he's had some amazing outings and then like really awful outings. So like this game specifically, Blake Wehunt, 5 innings, 11 strikeouts, no runs. And then this game for the Yard Goats, 6 innings, 8 strikeouts, 1 hit, followed by another game where he struck out 9, 1 hit. But then he's also had some like real stinkers kind of in here. So 6 runs in 3 2/3 innings. He's kind of been up and down, but you look at the peak potential of what Wehunt's been able to do, and there's a reason that he's ranked like where he is. Like he's a pretty decent prospect. So, what's the deal with Witherspoon when they drafted Witherspoon? Witherspoon, I talked about this earlier. I think Witherspoon is just struggling, but he is slowly rebounding. We can really quickly kind of go back over to Witherspoon because we did dive into that much more earlier. But Witherspoon, he's doing better like halfway into the season. So like if you look at these first group of starts here, look at the innings pitched and runs allowed. We had 3.14 runs, 4 innings, 2 runs, 4.1, 3 runs. Like it's just like a lot of high run values with not a lot of innings. In the second half, though, he's still allowing some runs in a few of these starts, but like look at the innings totals. So 4.1, 1 run, 5, 0, 5, 1. Like even in the starts where he's giving up 4 runs, he's still pitching longer in a game. So he had a 6 inning start in here. And so he's been improving as the season goes on. I just think that the Red Sox tried to change his mechanics. And then literally this is the first game where he went back to the mechanics that he had in college and he started pitching better. So I think that, the Red Sox have done super well with pitching. But I think they tried to tweak him too much. That's basically what it is. Witherspoon has 4 pitches of 55 or better. Yeah, like I said, I think I'm not like there's minor concern about Witherspoon, but overall I still feel like he's a major league starter someday. Like his peak potential was like a number 2 starter. He might not ever be that, but I still think that there's a possibility for it for sure. Like some people just start off slower. Like if he comes by, like if he starts next year and he pitches 3 starts and he has like gives up 2 runs in those 3 starts, like people are going to talk about him like he's a top 100 prospect again. So it's like it's just one season. Like I'm not ready to give up on him at all. Um, let's see, Eduardo Rivera. I don't know what to make of him. I mean, he's doing excellent right now. We had talked about Hayden Tolley at AAA. Eduardo Rivera is like right behind him when it comes to performance. So like these are still really nice numbers in terms of what he's doing at AAA. He's walking a little bit too many hitters, but he's getting a lot of people to chase. His K percentage is really high. people aren't hitting the ball very well off of him. He's getting a little bit unlucky. Um, but I think Rivera, like, I think there's something to him potentially that could make him maybe not a viable. I mean, he probably could be a starter, but he's a nice trade chip. I think that um, Rivera is somebody who certainly could be on the table as like a second or third piece, because you look at what he's done in the major leagues already this year, and I think that it's easier to sell like Eduardo Rivera when it's like, oh yeah, he's pitched in a couple games in the majors and hasn't given up a run yet. And like in the minor leagues this year, like he's doing pretty well. And I think he would be an interesting candidate for a lot of teams to be interested or to want him, because he's got a 2.44 ERA in the minors this year too. So Marcus Phillips isn't very good though, right? I think that's probably the biggest miss. Of last year's draft is Marcus Phillips. He does not look good. So I talked about Kyson obviously a lot, and how I'm not worried about him. I think Wither or Marcus Phillips is a reliever, like at best at this point. Like you're watching him start, and he doesn't look good. He had one start this year, where it was like, kind of impressive. Yeah, very early in the year right here, 3.2 innings, 7 strikeouts. And I was like, okay, cool. Like he didn't walk a lot of guys, but like even in the next start, he didn't give up a hit, but he had 4 walks in it, which is not great. And it's just like, it's been that way all year. Like he hasn't had many starts where he isn't giving up a ton of walks. Like this one right here, he didn't give up any hits. He had 7 walks. Like it's just, even when he's doing well, he just can't control the strike zone. And I just I think he's a reliever. He has to be a reliever. He throws hard enough, and maybe we can get, an 8th inning guy out of him. And at the end of the day, if you look at our draft um, from 2025, and like say Kyson Witherspoon turns into a viable major league starter, and Anthony Ianson turns into a major league starter, and Marcus Phillips turns into a major league reliever, like you're gonna feel really good about that from a draft perspective. Like being like, okay, we got 3 major league pieces in out of our first 4 picks that were pitchers. And then Henry Godbat, I think, can still be really good. It's just going to be a matter of what happens with injury. But um, like, not everybody has to turn out exactly how you expect. If Marcus Phillips, like I said, if he becomes even a middle reliever, like, it's not the end of the world. I just don't think he's going to be a starter at this point. I think the Red Sox probably are going to try to work with him to be a starter through next year. But if it's just not working the way that they're hoping it would, he'll probably transition to the bullpen after that. Valera is fascinating to me. It sucks he got injured. Yeah. I think that Juan Valera's match. I don't know if it shows last year's, but he hasn't had a ton. He was throwing like 100 miles an hour, 102 miles an hour, like extremely fast. And obviously that's probably part of why he got injured. But no, it doesn't. But yeah, these numbers were just incredible in the short stint that he was alive before he got injured. So we'll see what happens with him. I mean, I kind of look at him similarly to how I viewed like Luis Perales. I've always compared those two a lot. But Perales, obviously, we got the better end of that deal, it looks like right now, because Perales, we traded him for Jake Bennett, for any of you guys that don't remember that. Perales is just the biggest concern that I have with him has always been the walks, and his walk rate is still not great, and he's not striking out guys the way that he used to for the Nationals this year. And so for him to have 7.7 strikeouts per 9 and 5 walks per 9, like he's not giving up a ton of contact, like that's good. And like his ERA might look okay, but this is just not encouraging numbers to me. I would much rather have Jake Bennett, and so Craig Breslow did a great job drafting or trading for him. I think Valera is our future closer. Yeah, I mean, maybe Valera's walk rate is really going to determine whether he can be a starter or not. Because like if I mean, if you can keep an average walk rate or above, it's kind of like what we talked about with Peyton Tolley in the past. It's like Peyton Tolley's thing last year was like he was walking a ton of people, like way too many people to be successful in the major leagues consistently. But now his walk rate's 67th percentile, which that's perfectly fine. Like, um, all right. So we've kind of dove into a lot of the prospects. Talked a little bit about the draft. Um, we could talk about some of these other guys, but I think you've touched on all of the ones that are interesting to me. Edie Adetuyi is another one that's pretty interesting. Um, I think that this is another underrated type guy, but we'll see what ends up actually happening here. Obviously, Martin Sheelar, LaFlavor, those are the ones that are big, and then the top three guys we kind of touched on. So, but the Red Sox as a team. So we talked about what they should do in terms of like their roster, right? Um, I in terms of some of the trading, and so this is their current roster and like what it looks like. Um, so we Narvaez has been the primary catcher, but really it's Connor Wong's position at this point. Like he's definitely been a starting catcher for most this year and is performing well. And I think that there's an argument to be made that you could potentially acquire another catcher, but I don't think it's necessary with how well Connor Wong's performing. It's Narvaez on defense is still quality, and I think that he can only get better offensively because he's been doing so poorly that way this year. And so let's go over to his Savant page. First Narvaez. We'll get a better idea of how things are looking for him. So in 2025, this is kind of what it looked like for him. So it was solid. Like, I mean, this isn't great or anything, but he outperformed some of these numbers for sure. But his exit velocity was really good. And then we go to 2026, and the numbers really aren't too dissimilar. He's just not getting as lucky. His expected numbers still are pretty low, but I think that there's certainly room for him to grow. And defensively, he's still a premier catcher in the league. So if he can just hit the ball a little bit more consistently on the barrel, I think he'll be fine. I mean, is he going to bat 241 again this year? Probably not, but he could bat 250 the rest of the year, and that would be okay. Looking at this over, I feel more comfortable trading either both Early and Bennett, plus trading Sonny Gray and Tim to Arizona to give. Oh no, that I would that's crazy to me. Or looking trading either or both Early and Bennett, plus trading Sonny Gray and Temp Arizona to give us. You want all three of them going? If I'm reading that right, that's a lot. That's too much. For sure. Like I don't think Sonny Gray, because the Diamondbacks, what is their record this year? Like if they're selling pieces, I mean they're in a playoff position, right? Or close to it. They're above 500, 16% chance. Oh, maybe they won't. In separate deals, okay. If they're separate deals, then that's different. I don't know if you can trade. If you trade Early, Bennett, and Sonny Gray, you have to get starting pitching back. Like you couldn't trade all three of those guys and then still have the rotation that we've had. Like you can maybe trade two starting pitchers, but I don't think that would even work. Like if you're trading Sonny Gray, I think you have to keep your young guys for sure. Only two Sonny or Bennett Early. Yeah, I still think that it would be important to try to get somebody back. To be able to like throw innings for this team, because like I was talking earlier, Sonny, I think we should trade him. I agree, but Sonny's also one of the few guys that's like in the rotation right now that reliably can pitch innings, because Ranger Suarez is on the injured list right now too. So yeah, the key is Crochet return. Yeah, if Crochet comes back, and I don't think he's going to be back by the trade deadline. Do you? I mean, that's trade deadline's 3 weeks away, and he hasn't even started pitching yet. So I mean, unless he's starting to pitch like this week and can get like probably 3 outings in the minor leagues, I don't think that he's going to come back. Sandoval, I think, is going to have to be a like a bullpen bulk reliever. Like he could start, but I think that we need guys like him and Bayo to be able to give multi innings consistently. So, um, uh, so Spencer Steer and basically any player that's on the Reds right now, I look at as a potential trade candidate. We need some right-handed hitting for sure. The only issue is he's a first baseman, and we already kind of have Contreras at first base, so he would have to take up some of the DH role. But I don't think it would cost a lot to get Spencer Steer. And he has shown that he can be a quality-ish hitter at the major league level. Some guy who can provide power, and he's having a pretty good year this year, like a better year than he's had in year past. He's wow, 2025. Those are expected metrics are not good, so it's nice to see positive regression here from him. But like he pulls the ball, and like a lot of these balls that are going to the pull side on the left side here, they're going over the monster. So, too much injury risk. Great work. Need 7 starters. How I like Steer. He's a good player. That's why Kettle Marte is a perfect second base. Yeah. No, I mean I'm on board. If they want to trade Kettle Marte and we can get that salary down to 15 million a year, I would trade Anthony Ianson for him probably. I'm sure I would. Anthony Ianson and probably have maybe one other guy. So not sure what the most recent update is on Cassis. I think Cassis is toast. I don't think we wouldn't even need to mention his name the rest of the year. I don't know if he's ever going to come back. Blanco. Are we talking Jorge Blanco? I don't think he was doing very good this year. Yeah. From the Mets, this is a guy you're talking about, right? Jorge Polanco. I mean, we could trade for him, but he is. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't trade for this guy. Like, he costs some money, and like they would dump him on us. It would cost literally nothing. So if you wanted to get Polanco, like you probably could, and I mean, he could only get better, right? I guess, but I think that the Mets could designate him for assignment. Seriously, like, what's his contract? Oh, like, did he get a multi-year deal? 2 years, $40 million. Ain't no way. I don't know how they would possibly trade for him. 2 years, $40 million. So they would have to eat that entire contract. Or conversely, they could take on one of our bad contracts. So, like, if they took Yoshida, I guess, but Yoshida's better than him. So why would we do that? Defensively, like, what's he, a DH? Like, is he even a second baseman? Has he played in the field at all? He's not very good defensively, if I remember right. Played at all in the field this year. So not really. First base, like 2 games and then just DH the other. Yeah, I don't know, dude. Most recent update. If anyone, Neto? Yeah. Okay. Now we're talking. So it would take a lot to get Neto. But I do like Neto a lot. I think that his swing fits for Fenway Park. That's what I like about him, because you look at the Savant numbers, and he's one of the few guys that, like, Savant numbers aren't going to be super encouraging, even when you go back, I think, maybe 2023 or something. Like, he strikes out a lot. He hasn't consistently walked a lot. But just like look at where he's hitting the ball on the spray charts over here, and like, it's just made for Fenway Park. And so I really like the idea of trading for Neto, because he's in his prime, 25 years old. Hopefully we'll get better. Maybe they can work on the strikeouts a little bit. He strikes out a lot, so that's a concern. But he would be a very quality player. I don't know how many more years of control they have. Zach Neto, 23, but at least 2 more years, right? Free agent 2030, so 3 more years of control. Is that right? Yeah, 3 more years. I mean, it would take a lot to get Neto, like quite a bit, because this is a guy who's, I mean, he should have been an all-star at some point in the past few years, but he's an above average hitter. He's got power. I think he could do do better. He's got speed. I mean, it would take a lot. Like, I mean, it's another trade that probably starts with like Anthony Ianson, like, or they might even want Franklin Arias, which yeah, I don't know, but like he leads the league in strikeouts, which I mean, team's more contact oriented now than it has been in the past, but that is the possibility of some scare in there because if he's already leading the league in strikeouts now, and say he gets like hurt or something, that just means he's going to strike out 220 times and then like not be able to hit, and then that's a problem. It can be a problem very fast. But the other issue with him is he's just not a very good defender. So like, so you're eating some of that as well. But I do like his bat. He'd cost a lot. He's not my perfect fit, but I mean, he would help a lot on this team still too. You can play off the bench. I think one where you're. I love Neto, perfect swing, no Angels trade Neto. I don't think they. I mean, they would. I think the Angels should be trading Neto right now because if they can get two like big prospects back, like say they got like hypothetically, say they got like Franklin Arias and then like I don't know what it would cost Connolly early or something like that. And you got that back for Zach Neto, I would be doing that for sure on the Angels side. And I think that's kind of what it would cost. Realistically speaking, it's going to be two pieces that would hurt get Neto. Or we just wait for Arias to get the call. I think that that's the more reasonable solution at this point for that. But the thing is, he's not going to have the offensive upside from the power side that Neto does. Like, he might have a similar OPS, like 760 to 800. I could potentially see that, but he's not going to be hitting you 26 home runs. And I think Neto, you know, his career high is 26 home runs. He could hit 30 plus home runs at Fenway pretty easily. I'd be shocked if Franklin Arias gets the call. To me personally, I promote Arias and give shortstop for the next. I don't think Arias. I think Arias is going to be at AAA at the end of the year, and if he hits well there, he's going to be in the major league by early next. But it's possible. I mean, if the team's doing really, really well, I think Arias after the trade deadline is probably going to go to AAA. And so if the team is doing super well, they could call him up in September and try to have him available for the postseason. Like, because realistically speaking, you know, you want pitching, defense, and power on your roster when you're in the postseason. And obviously, Franklin Arias is probably the best defensive infielder that we have right now. Give Caleb Durbin a run for his money, which Caleb Durbin has been one of the best defensive infielders of baseball. So, like, we want to give him his flowers for sure. I thought he would be better than that, but Arias would be certainly the best defensive infielder that we had. And so, if you're trying to make a run in the postseason, like, there's a plausible way that Arias gets called up, but I think it's less likely because he doesn't have that much speed. But I would, you know, Arias at shortstop and Rafael in center field. Yeah, what I mentioned earlier too is like if you have Arias at shortstop and Rafaela in center, you can have defensive liabilities around these players and they make up for it. Because it's like if you are so above average at shortstop and say you have like a Zach Neto at second base who's not a very good defender, like, well, it doesn't really matter because your middle infield is still going to be really good just because Arias is so much better. Like we had talked about this earlier, where it's just like elite players in categories matter so much more than above average players, and Arias is just elite defensively. So, um, so yeah, I think Neto's an interesting name. It would be a very surprising move, but this is the type of trade target that I think could be possible. We talked about Lindor earlier, possibly too. I think that Lindor feels more like the type of move that Breslow would make. But I can see Durbin hitting 250 with 17 home runs and 50 RBIs. Yeah, I mean, that's probably kind of where he's going to be towards the end of the year. I mean, 700. I mean, I would think he very realistically could end the year similar to what he did last year with more power. Like, and you take that 100%. Like, that's kind of what we bought. I'd be shocked if the Angels traded Neto. I mean, I would be shocked just because I think that the Angels organization is run very poorly, but they should be trading Neto because they're not like just there's no way this team is going to be able to turn itself around and be like a good team anytime soon in Neto's range. So, like realistically speaking, like they should be trading Neto. They like, I mean, honestly, they should be shopping Trout. Like, they should be shopping Trout at this point because he's rebounded from injury. He's having the best season that he's had in the past few seasons, and who's to say he's going to have a 144 OPS plus ever again after this year? And like, I mean, they should be trading. They should be looking to trade Trout and try to get out from under this contract. If I was them, like, because you're gonna be screwing yourself later down the road. Um, it would hurt a lot for Angels fans, but I mean, if they can get out from half of that contract for the rest of his career, I think you could find a team that would take that. Um, Trout said no to be traded, bro. Maybe if they trade him to the Dodgers, that would be crazy. I mean, Trout can say no, but if you give Trout like the option to go somewhere, like if you're trading him, it's a salary dump. Like you're not expecting to get a ton back. But again, like he's making so much money over the next like 6, 7 years that even just like being like, "Well, we're not having to pay 20 million of this," like it's just going to help them to be able to actually do something in the future. They've just been run really bad. How bad is the Seager contract? So Corey Seager is under control until 2031. So what's that? Another 5 years at $31 million. If you're acquiring Seager again, it's going to have to be one of those situations where the Rangers are eating at least probably like 12 million of that, maybe more per season. Like that, I mean, they're probably going to have to eat 60+ million dollars. I don't think that Seager looks as good as Lindor does, if I remember right. Pretty good. I mean, that's a pretty stark drop off. It's like last year, I mean, but last year he was elite, like across the board. Expected batting average, expected on base percentage. He's still one of the best players in baseball. This year, it's just been a total drop off. So, all right, what are we looking at here? Bat speed 72.6. Bat speed's gone down maybe a mile per hour. Whiff percentage 6 percentile, K percentage. That's a pretty big drop. Still walks a lot. I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. Sprint speed, healing, defense has dropped a decent amount. He's still an average defender. I mean, it's apples and oranges here, I think, like for a lot of people when they're talking about Lindor and Corey Seager, because they have a similar contract. They're in the same position, same age. But I look at just Lindor and I just feel more confident that he's going to be able to rebound. Like his defensive profile is still looking a little bit better. And like just across the board, like I was saying earlier, like his batting metrics, they look really similar this year to what they did last year. And so he's one of the most unlucky hitters in all of baseball this year. And so I look at that and it's like if they're trying to dump him, they're telling you they're trying to dump him. Like you're gonna get Lindor for pennies on the dollar compared to what you would normally because he's struggling at the plate um statistically, and the Mets are trying to dump him. So like if you're talking Corey Seager, who like I mean it's just it doesn't look horrible. Like there's still some things to look at, but it doesn't look the same as it did last year. But Lindor's does. Lindor's looks basically the same as it did last year. It's just the results aren't there. So I would rather have Lindor. I really would much rather have Lindor. Um, Seager to me is a utility player. I don't think Seager is not going to be a utility player for years. Like he has $30 million contract. Trout said no to be traded. Marte would be perfect fit, but Arizona would never. I don't think Arizona would trade him just because they're like trying to make the playoffs. Speaking of the Dodgers, if MLB implements, I think last I heard was 260 million. They're not going to do a cap. The players will never agree to a salary cap. They would rather cancel the season, agree to a salary cap. I promise you. You tempt Arizona, bro. He's the perfect player. I mean, In a hypothetical trade to the Diamondbacks, Marte, they're gonna have to eat half the salary to begin with. Like straight up, they're gonna have to eat half that salary, which means that the Red Sox are gonna have to give up at least 2 premier players, like high-end talent prospects. So you're talking probably Connolly early. I would think Connolly early or Jake Bennett, which is fine. I would give up either one of those, Marte. And then you're probably talking Anthony Ianson or Franklin Arias, which I would give up Ianson. So yeah, I mean, if they eat $12 million of the contract, $10 million of the contract, and then we can get we can give up a couple of those guys and then a couple more other prospects in there, I would do it. But I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to want more than that, or they're not going to want to eat the money. Xavier Edwards, really good and young. I think he doesn't have the power is the issue. So the team needs power. Like I love Xavier Edwards and like his profile and like shoot everything about him. It screams like he's like Luis Ariz. Like he's basically Luis Ariz who can field a little bit better. But he would cost a lot, and I don't think he fits the need for the team. Is really what it is. But I would be interested in trading for him. I think that this is the type of player that is like the secondary move after you get a better offensive piece. That's what I would do. Seager has 3 more years left. Doesn't he have 5? Isn't that what we just looked at? Oh, we just saw that he had 5 left. Yeah, 5 more years after this. I'm thinking 3. Like he's same contract that Lindor has basically. Lindor to me is scary. You'll be stuck with a lemon. I don't know. I disagree. Marte is the total package we need. Yeah, maybe. Take Xavier Words is really good. What if the Sox take over Marte? If the Sox take all of Marte's salary, I think it only takes one piece, like one like one big piece. Like it's still probably Connolly early and like two or three other prospects. But I think they would consider that. I mean, that's kind of what they were wanting earlier this year, and the Red Sox said no. They was like, need to give us Connolly early as like a starting or Peyton Tolle, and they were like, no, I'm not doing either one of those. But I think at this point, when you see the development that the Red Sox have done with their pitching, I think they should be looking to trade one of their pitchers. And I think Connolly early is the perfect one to try to trade, in my opinion. Why can't the Sox eat Marte's money? They don't want to. They don't want to eat money. Like if they would take Marte's contract if they can get rid of Sonny's contract, but like they're not going to trade for Sonny Gray because money to begin with. Marlins are buying, not selling per Passan. I agree. I think the Marlins are buying. But a Marte contract is not that bad. No, it's not that bad. Arizona has a money problem. Exactly. Yeah. So like, if you acquire Marte, you trade Sonny Gray. Like, I think that wouldn't be that bad. Like that would be a good trade off to me. But I don't know. I just don't know like if the Diamondbacks are going to be selling or not. You would trade early over Bennett. Yeah, I mean, I think it's very close. And not everything's like things can change really quickly. So I don't want us to look at this and be like, oh, I'm using this as the example to prove my point. But I just like what I'm seeing from Bennett a lot right now. And they both are very similar when it comes to back and forth. So they both have similar fastball velocity. So if you look on here, 93.4 for Connolly early, average fastball, and then 92.8 for Jake Bennett. So very similar. The results that we are getting from Jake Bennett right now are very impressive. But if you look back at Connolly early, we're going to go back now, and then you look at what he did in 2025, it's essentially what we're getting from Jake Bennett right now is what we got from Connolly early last year in a smaller sample size. So it's fair to say that there could be regression from Jake Bennett as well. But like they both have kind of a diverse set of arsenal. Like Bennett is more fastball oriented, and then he's got a changeup that he uses, and he's like smaller. percentages with the sweeper, cutter, and curveball, which you guys down here. Whereas when you're looking at Connolly early, it's much more evenly distributed across the board. But I like that early has a more diverse usage. This is this year for Connolly early, his usage per pitch. The only issue that I have with people who have this type of skill set is it's harder to like maintain all of these pitches. But conversely, is like you don't need all of them to be working. If you have 2 or 3 good pitches, then you're probably fine for any given start. Um, I don't know. I like them both a lot. I mean, I think it's really opinion based on who you would rather have at this point. Um, but I don't know. I like what I'm seeing from Jake Bennett a lot right now. The chase percentage is just unreal, and like the walk percentage is just great. And maybe it's recency bias. Maybe people value that. I think whatever perceived value that you can get from somebody else for Jake Bennett or Conley early, like I think they're very similar players right now. But if somebody likes one of them a lot more, like okay, well let them like them more and trade that guy. You know, so me, I probably would keep Bennett, but you can trade either one of them. Um, is there any worth to dealing Duran at the deadline? Or I wouldn't bother touching Duran right now. Just let him play through it. It's not like Duran's value is 0. It's just I think he can only get better, hopefully. Um, I guess since Roman won't be coming back for a while, we should keep. I don't think that there's any point to trading him. The early screams John Lester. I don't know. I don't think either one of these guys are John Lester. I know that there was a direct comparison the other day to Jake Bennett, and like his first 8 starts is like the first left-handed pitch or first pitcher in like Red Sox history since John Lester to do what he's done essentially. Um, but the thing about Lester is Lester was a fastball pitcher. Like Lester was throwing 96 miles an hour. Like that was 94, 96. That's where he was sitting when people weren't throwing that fast, you know? So like his average fastball had to have been 95 miles an hour. Back far. Um, go back far enough for John Lester, but when he was coming up, he was throwing like 95 regularly. So, and that's just not the type of player that either one of these guys are. Um, but I mean, I like the idea that maybe they can be one of those 4 members of the pitching staff like John Lester was, but I just think they're different pitchers. Um, you can never have too much pitching, but what happens when Crochet and Suarez come back? It feels really bad if we have to option a guy who's throwing the ball. Yeah, that's why I think we should trade some. Yeah, 100%. That's why, like, if it was me running the show right now, I would be trading Sonny Gray for a position player prospect package, um, and I would be uh, trying to like acquire somebody like Kettle Marte or somebody for the offense. So we pull from some of the assets that we have in the pitching, and then we like acquire needs that we have on the offensive side. Because if we're doing so well pitching, like across the board, all of our pitchers are just doing so well, then like there's really no need to hoard all of these guys right now when we have a greater need um, for stuff on the offensive side, especially if we can just trade those assets over. So yeah, like I mean, Gray. I mean, we have 7 legitimate starters on this team that have proven that they should. Well, 6, I guess. You're not counting Bayo. We've got like 6 legit starters, and so when Suarez and Crochet come back, and then Bayo out of the bullpen and Sandoval, like, yeah, I mean, I think that you can trade one of them pretty easily, and I would probably look in your Sonny Gray or one of the younger guys in a package deal. So, me, my tone is 3 gets or Marte, Alvarez, or Neto. I mean, I would give a lot to if they made Alvarez available and were willing to not ask for the moon, like which I would. I don't know why they wouldn't. Um, I would trade a lot for Alvarez. I would trade a lot for him. I prefer it because it makes so much sense. That Marte, I mean, Marte makes plenty of sense too. So, um, but I don't know. I think I honestly think it's way more likely that the Red Sox acquire somebody like Francisco Lindor than it is that they acquire any of Marte, Alvarez, or Neto, just because um, the Red Sox. So something else that I wanted to um, is this comment says the Red Sox are willing at a right-handed hitter and might be willing to take on a bad contract per Buster Olney. So this was a report about a month ago. And so if they are telling you like, hey, we'll take on a bad contract to like get help to this offense, and then you're also hearing the Mets being like, we need to get rid of this bad contract. Then it's just like those two things alone kind of line up. And then Lindor also fits like positional need. I mean, I put a lot of puzzle pieces together here and it makes sense to me. I Lindor scares me. Yeah, I mean, it's all about how much money. Like he could be totally scary or he could be fine. So, um, but all right. Let's see, what else do we want? We've been streaming here for almost 3 hours, so I appreciate some of you guys have been here like the whole time. This has been great. I've had a lot of fun getting to like let out some of this stuff, and the Red Sox are 51% chance to make the postseason, 3% chance to win the World Series. It is. So let's talk about that really quick as we're kind of heading towards the end of this year. Um, what do we expect from the Red Sox if they make the post? Like, say that there's not a significant roster change, and they just kind of are in the middle. Maybe they trade a couple guys and they acquire a couple guys, but it's like no major moves. And so the roster is relatively similar, but we get guys like Crochet back, and we have Roman Anthony. I'm sure will be back at some point this year. Probably produce relatively okay. So say we have those two guys back in this rotation. Maybe we deal with another injury at some point, but we'll just pretend like we have Crochet and Ranger Suarez back in the rotation, go along with like Peyton Tolley. And so we have three legitimate starters and feel good about for the post. And then we have our offense kind of just the way that it is. We'll just pretend like it stays an average offense. How well do you think the Red Sox could do in the playoffs if they make the playoffs and say they're a wild card team because they're probably not winning this division? That'd be shocking at this point. How far do you think that they could go? Because I look at the American League, and the old adage was always, pitching and defense win like a World Series or games. I think, and I've been saying this for a while now, I don't think it's pitching and defense anymore that wins you games. I think it's pitching and home runs. And you kind of look at that across the board and you see the teams that have been successful in the postseason, and it's because they have good pitching, and then they have 3 or 4 guys in their lineup that can hit you a 2-run home run and end the game, and it's a 4-2 game, and the 4 runs that you scored were on 2 home runs. Because the opposing pitching is so good in the postseason, and everybody's being thrown out at any point in time, really hard to like string together hit. And so our team is built to string together hits. Do we have enough offense to even get to the point where our pitching makes that much of a difference? Because if you have Crochet and he goes out there and he throws 7 innings and gives up 2 runs, like that should be enough to get you to a position where you can win a game. But we could still lose that game 2-1, like easily, or 2-0. Or like he could give up 1 run and we could still lose it 1-0, and that's a playoff game. And like crap, now like we're down 1-0 in the series. So, but conversely, if they get a bat and they've got Wilson Contreras and they've got Roman Anthony, and say Roman Anthony's doing better, they get 1 more bat, and they've got 3 bats at the top of the lineup where it's like, okay, these are 3 guys that you have to contend yourself with. I think it becomes more of a conversation, because there's just nobody in the league scares me on a pitching side except for like the Mariners. And the Mariners offense is as bad, if not worse, than ours. probably worse than ours. Just crazy to think about, but it's really bad, and they're free falling right now. And if they don't make the postseason, the Yankees pitching is good. Cam Schlittler is good, but like I don't. I mean we've already seen that we can handle the Yankees a little bit. So the Yankees could easily beat us. They're probably the best team in the besides the Rays. But like really just the Rays. I mean, you got to look at it and it's like I think in a short series, like it would not be that hard for this team right now if they were in the postseason as is. I think for them to get to the championship series relatively. But it's when you get to the championship series that when you're in a long series, it's just I think that the team's offense will start to show the lack of offense. And I think that's personally really what they need. If they get another bat, and Marte is the one that keeps getting brought up over and over again. Marte, preferring Marte over Alvarez is crazy, but um, I'm just reading that comment. Maybe for the cost, maybe I can see if that's the point you're trying to make. Yes, there's a pretty reasonable take because Alvarez is going to be insanely expensive. Um, Getting knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, yeah, I mean you totally could too. Like especially if it's a wild card series, like it's 2 games and you're done. So roaming off the bench, the AL is garbage. Good shit, always learns. Thanks, dude. Um, I don't know. It's not unfathomable to think if they get a bat or two, this team is a World Series contender, like to make the World Series, not to win the World Series. I think that whoever makes the World Series from the American League, the underdog against 5 or 6 other teams in the National League, they're just so much better than that. But um, but it would not be unreasonable to think that this is not that far off from making the World Series, not winning the World Series, making the World Series. You just need to elevate the high ceiling talent, and that's why I think that Lindor makes a lot of sense to me. A lot of sense. One that like Marte does too. If they sell, then yeah, Marte totally. I'd love to have Marte too. Um, but I don't know. I think that Lindor is going to be cheap. I think I think that the Red Sox are going to be interested in that, especially if they're willing to take on a bad contract. So, all right. Connor Wong's 12th on the team. More. Right, Connor for life is it. All right. Well, I think we've covered a lot of good information. Run back through the prospects really quick, see if there's anybody that I want to talk about. But I think we're getting pretty close to the end here. Jack Winay is an interesting guy. If you guys haven't heard about him, we drafted him last year. I don't know what round it was, but it was like a 10th round pick. But he's looking really nice. 2020, since he's promoted up to Portland, 328 batting average, 854 OPS, couple home runs. He has 13 home runs this year. That's pretty good for a later round pick. So keep him in the back of your mind. Mason White also 13 home runs. He's playing in Greenville too, like 510 slugging percentage. Like I didn't mention this enough earlier. The Red Sox offensively, like their entire farm system is super good right now offensively. And people aren't talking about that enough because the pitching is what everybody mentions. But like a month ago, I was reading a report and their weighted runs created plus was number one from their minor leagues all the way down. Like they had the best weighted runs created plus out of any minor league system like a month ago. And I was like, what the heck? But then you go through it and it's like this guy's got 800 OPS, 800 OPS, 1,000 OPS, 10 home runs, 8 home runs, 15 home runs. And it's like, okay, yeah, I guess it makes sense. Like everybody's producing really well right now. Like Mason White at 13 home runs, that's a lot. And I mentioned this briefly earlier, but like Yolan Cespedes has 16 home runs. Like that's a ton. For him, he's never hit that many before. Luke Heyman, 9 home runs, 837 OPS. This is just like a random catcher that we acquired. For what the deal was for Alex Hoppy, like just like a AAA reliever we acquired last year, and this guy's a catcher with an 840 OPS. Like, yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting offensive pieces that are like leveling up a little bit this year. And so we'll see how that does for the rest of the season. But the offensive side is doing really well in the minor leagues. Not being talked about enough. I think Breslow will overpay this year since his job is on the line. Yeah, I mean, maybe he should. He's only overpaid one time and got Garrett Crochet for it. There's not much complaining about getting Garrett Crochet, right? So he's going to overpay and he gets another talent like Garrett Crochet or a top 10, 20 player in the league. Do it. Just don't you can't overpay for fucking Dustin May. Like, the most, you just can't do that. Like, I can't even believe that happened last year. It was just unreal. Fathom that deal happened in the moment. Like, I remember acquiring Dustin May and being like, "What are we doing?" And I saw the return, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? This is what we gave up for Dustin May." If they do something like that again this year, then Breslo's going to get fired because like that's the worst mistake that he's made since he's been head of operations. He's made a lot of really bad mistakes. But trading for Dustin May and giving up what you gave up is just insane. Like, to even think about, like still trying to remember it. Like, just totally flubbed last year's trade line, which doesn't give me a ton of confidence that he's going to be able to succeed in this one. IKF keeps hitting once he's back, we got to trade him. All right, maybe. I mean, he's kind of like a glue guy right now, but I mean, he hasn't been a part of this winning streak, so I think you could trade him. I mean, if he can get you a halfway decent prospect, a top 10 prospect for IKF from somebody, their number 10 prospect, I would take. I believe since Breslow wanted, maybe. I mean, I don't think the price has changed on Marte though. It's still going to cost you Conley early, and if he wasn't willing to do that before, I don't know if he's at 9. Now, IKF it was $6 million. Yeah, IKF's done really well for us, honestly. So like, it's hard to criticize the move now too much, but like it made no sense at the time. Like, I mean, it still doesn't make sense why he did it. I'm glad he's performed well, but yeah. See if there's anybody else down here. Oh, Brooks Brannon, we didn't talk about. Brooks Brannon is another prospect that he doesn't really like. He's a catcher right now. But he's had some pretty nice numbers this year. His exit velocities are really high. Weighted runs created plus 142, but he has 14 home runs this year. High strikeout rate. He walks a decent clip. So like, we'll see what ends up happening with this guy. But he's been mashing the shit out of the ball lately. So like 953 OPS, 14 home runs. Like, this is another guy that I was talking about where it's just like offense across the entire board in the minor leagues for the Red Sox is just insanely high. He's just another example of that. Like, 54 games and 14 home runs. Like, that's extremely impressive, even with the high strikeout total. Anybody else on this? Isaiah Jackson's another guy that's been doing pretty good. This is the guy we traded for Vaughn Grissom. But he has 13 home runs. Oh, his batting average has dipped a little bit. This was higher before, but 13 home runs from Isaiah Jackson. I think, had a walk-off grand slam earlier this year too. Just another, like I said, another guy who's just like hitting bombs in the system all of a sudden. Ferry Rodriguez was doing really well, but I think he's dipped again earlier. 12 home runs. Yeah, same thing. He hit a lot of these early. He has not been performing very well lately, but again, just another guy with, like, he had 5 home runs last year. Now he has 12 this year. So it's just like, where's all this power coming from all of a sudden? Who really knows? Maximus Martin, I think. He's just coming back from injury, but he's been performing really well offensively this year too. So anyway, yeah, this is just some good stuff. If you remember in November, Sox wanted to Arizona to eat 20 million. Where we're getting it, or yeah, I mean, the funniest thing, Breslow gets more. make the playoffs and win after he's so close to fired. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, but um, but if the Red Sox continue to play well after firing Cora, I mean, it's going to make Breslow look really good at the end of the year. Like for him to be like, I fired the manager and then we made the playoffs. Because if you look at the page over here, Sox score 10-17, Chad Tracy 36-31. So what's that math out to? Fast. I want to see what 53 winning percentage. So how many more games do they have the rest of the year? If they win 54% of their games the rest of the year, where would that put them at? Sorry, I want to do math here. So if they win 31 more games the rest of the year, 1 plus uh, doesn't feel right. Maybe 5, 4, 36. 82 games, 83 games. If they win 83 games and they play the same that they've been playing under Chad Tracy the rest of the year and they win 83 games, does that make the playoffs? Maybe. I mean, the American League sucks so bad. They're not that far off. That's the thing. If they play the same way that they've been playing under Chad Tracy the rest this year, they say they only win like 2 or 3 more extra games. That would put them at 5 wins, 85 wins, playoffs. Yeah, 86 wins pretty easily. Jeremy Pena, I mean, if the Astros are willing to talk, yeah, I think that, I mean, they just made a trade today. They traded Lance McCullers. So the only issues with Pena though is he's not like an offensive threat in the way that we need again. Like he's a really good hitter. It's just like we need power, right? Like, and I don't remember. We had done this in the off season. I don't think he's got like the type of power that. Yeah, I mean, he pulls the ball, but I don't know. I don't like Jeremy Pena as much as some other people do. Personally, I think he's a little bit overrated. I like Zach Neto even a little bit more. But the Astros, I think that they're in trouble. I don't know if they've quite given up. What is their record? I mean, they're not that much worse than us, right? Like, who do they have on their roster worth a damn besides Jordan? Oh yeah, it's the pitching that's the problem. That's right. Because Hunter Brown's back from injury though. So a lot of their season was resting on Brown, and then Amaya's been shit. Yeah, I mean, yeah, their season's not looking too great. They have Josh Hader though, back from injury. They got a nice bullpen with Bocart. Bad, got some nice pieces. I don't know. I don't think that the Astros, they're not like totally on give up territory right this second. But what if we traded for Christian Vasquez? Maybe, probably not. But not sure if we ever asked about Pena. I read the Stros were open to selling him. I think the Astros. Also, do you think MLB? Do you think MLB owners lead by John Luck this? Lock this. Yeah, I think that this is going to be a messy. I think we're going to lose part of a season, or maybe not the whole season, but I think that the owners and the players are willing to not play baseball if they want, and it's going to make neither one of them happy. I think it's just going to hurt the sport. I really would be surprised if we didn't have an extended lockout, and I think it's more likely we lose games than we don't. Um, yeah, I think if we got an injury, it would make a lot of sense for Vasquez to come back. Like he left Houston, came back to Houston. Like he's having his best season in like 5 years. Like he's still not an offensively great player, but like obviously he still defensively is pretty good. And then he wouldn't cost you anything. So like I bet you we could trade Christian Vasquez for like Mickey Gasper straight across, honestly, because Mickey Gasper just has more years of control. Like it's gonna cost you, like I said, basically nothing. Fielding run value, he still handles the ball well enough. Um, I don't know. Probably never gonna happen though. I don't think if we lost 2 years of baseball, the sport's over. Like I don't think we'll lose a full season next year. I gotta be honest, but I bet you we'll lose like 30 games or something. You have Henry and Steinbrenner wanting a salary cap. Look, I don't think we're gonna get a salary cap. I just don't. I think that like I would be shocking if we got a salary cap. It would have to be a salary cap. Like I know that the owners proposed like was it 260 million? It would have to be like 320 million. Like it would have to be so high, and then the floor would have to still like 120. Like I just don't see how the players would agree to that when we're like the only major sport that doesn't have a salary cap for a reason. They've been fighting it for years. So I can't plausibly see a world in which there's a salary cap. But um somebody else on the Reds that potentially could be interesting. Trying to who else could they? Suarez is a guy that I could see getting traded, and I could if the Red Sox don't want to like try get better. Um, Suarez is totally classic like Craig Breslow type of target because he fits kind of the idea of what we're looking for, right? We need power in the lineup, obviously. Um, and he was an idea last offseason. And like he hit 49 home runs last year. And his bat is still tailor made for Fenway Park, so I do think he would get better. So I think the Red Sox could acquire Suarez for like nothing. And I'm not saying they should do this because I think it's a mistake. Like they should get somebody better. But I think if you trade for Suarez, you're going to give up nothing for him. Like it's going to be like you're going to trade like Maximus Martin or something. Like it's going to be like it might cost you Cespedes and I don't know, like Tyler Uberstein, like those two players, and it's just like okay, and then they eat most of the contract, and then that's it. Um, yeah, I think he's another one of those guys where I had mentioned Lindor before. I think he could hit well there, but Suarez is like his swing is just it's a pull swing, and like when you look at this, it's just like I didn't want the Red Sox to sign him last offseason as their like stopgap offensively, but it's too impressive what he did last year, hitting 49 home runs while having this Savant page look pretty weak, in my opinion, honestly. Just shows that he doesn't need to have huge numbers on this screen for it to go out of the ballpark. So, like, and he has 11 home runs this season. I think something that is encouraging just by looking at this is the opposite field. Like he still has 4 home runs to the opposite field. But let's go down. Let's go park factors. This is actually pretty interesting. So This year at Fenway Park, he would have 7 home runs. And then in Cincinnati, he has the 11 that he does. So, great. I do still think that maybe he would tailor his swing a little bit more to adjust to Fenway. So, because last year he would have hit 48 home runs at Fenway Park if playing at Fenway Park the whole time, and he hit 49. So, like, I think that the discrepancy might be a little bit different. But I believe players will eat salary cap. I mean, yeah, that's the only way that it would happen for sure. If there's, I mean, there would have to be a floor go along with cap. There's no way they would just agree to a cap. It would have to be, like I said, it would have to be an insane cap, and they'd have to have like other incentives or like revenue sharing, and like it would need to be significantly higher. But Mickey, yeah, Gasper, yeah, Gasper. I can't believe Gasper got so much leeway this year. I mean, he did okay, honestly. I'm kind of sad that he didn't hit a home run because I don't know if he'll get called back up at any point. I would like to see him hit a home run with the Red Sox because honestly, like Gasper's another one of those guys. Though, when you look at his minor league stats, I talked about this repeatedly throughout this, but like he's done really well at play this year. 8 home runs, 991 OPS, 38 games, like 35 walks, 30 strikeouts. Like he is AAA, like the king of AAA. Mickey Gasper is. But yeah. Anyway, let's see. Any other prospects we want to talk about? At all interesting? Don't really think so, to be honest. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've covered a lot of things, a lot of good things. If you guys missed part of this chat or stream, we talked a lot about Red Sox prospects earlier. We touched on the draft and what's exciting about some of these guys that they drafted. We talked about what we think that the Red Sox should be doing this trade deadline and some of the guys that I think that they could be targeting. A lot of it's just obviously so clearly dependent on how they perform in the next couple weeks. Because if they come out of the break and they lose 7 of the next 10 games, then they're selling and they should sell. But if they come out and they win 7 of the next 10 games, then they're in a playoff spot most likely. And so it's such a weird position to be in, but hopefully we keep playing well because we just have not done that post All-Star break at any point in the past number of years. So we'll see. But for those of you guys that were here for like the whole time, really appreciate it, Vish. I know you were here most of the time, and TD, you were here like basically the whole time too. So thank you. Appreciate it a lot. And we'll talk again at some point. I have no idea when, but hopefully we keep the good content coming. So you guys have a good day, and see you in the next one. Later.